Chapter 952. There's actually a guardian cocoon here? Zhou was alarmed. Although there were many guardian cocoons, they were scattered all over the world. The chances of encountering one weren't high. It was considered lucky for them to encounter a guardian cocoon in such an unknown dimensional zone. There's a chest soul and a guardian cocoon on the mountain. Zhou told Li Xian and Feng Qiuyan the situation. Li Xian was very interested when he heard that. I was just thinking about getting a guardian to play with, and it came knocking on my door. If you aren't interested, I'll contract it for fun. You have to think carefully. Ignoring the fact that you can contract it, even if you can, there's no guarantee. The guardian can betray you at any time. Zhou explained the matter regarding the guardian to Li Xian. Li Xian thought nothing of it. That's good. No one is restrained. It's just like finding a girlfriend. If you're suitable, you can be together. If you're not, you can break up. You can't make her follow you forever regardless of whether you like her or not. That's immoral. All right, as long as you like it. Zhou thought for a moment and said, however, you have to be careful. The one on the mountain is probably a mythical chess soul. It's still a question if your strategy will work. Li Xian thought for a moment and said, actually, Chinese chess is a relatively simple game. It's not as complicated as Go. Even a master-level human chess master won't find it easy to defeat a special computer chess master. If that chess soul follows the rules, there's a high chance of winning. I'm just afraid that he has some special means that will cause variables to appear in the game. Zhou thought for a moment and said, how about this? Don't go up. I'll help you play the game. You can contract the guardian yourself. If anything happens, I can handle it myself. Haha, I won't stand on ceremony then. Li Xian handed his phone to Zhou. As there was no internet here, Zhou could only take the Chinese chess game he had downloaded on his phone and tell him how to operate it. It's too dangerous up there. Wait for me here. Zhou put her down and got her to stay at the foot of the mountain. He took Li Xian's phone and went up MT Chinese chess. Zhou had already made up his mind. If Li Xian couldn't contract it, he would attempt to kill the guardian inside the cocoon. It could be considered as eliminating a future enemy. The moment he took his first step on MT Chinese chess, Zhou felt the taboo power descend upon him. Thankfully, the heaven-opening scripture of the highest elder was effective. The restrictions were useless against him. Knowing that the heaven-opening scripture of the highest elder was useful, Zhou felt relieved. The black-robed chess soul sat in front of the chessboard. His appearance was no different from a real person. It was almost impossible to tell that he was a spirit body. The chessboard here was much more exquisite. Not only was it carved on the stone platform, but there were also stone blocks on both sides of the stone platform. After Zhou sat down on the stone block opposite him, the black-robed chess soul finally opened its eyes. Its pair of eyes that resembled dark abysses looked at him and said, are you prepared to bet your fate as a chess player? I'm ready. Zhou picked up Li Xian's phone and opened the Chinese chess game. He chose the highest difficulty, the Grandmaster difficulty. As Zhou had left first, he restarted a few rounds. When the computer left first, he followed the computer strategy and chose the common opening, cannon. The black-robed chess soul's expression didn't change as it jumped out. Zhou played chess with the black-robed chess soul according to the computer strategy. The intensity exceeded his imagination, but there was no victor. Li Xian became nervous when he saw this. A mythical chess soul is indeed extraordinary. It can actually fight a master for so long without being at a disadvantage. Zhou will be fine, right? Coach can fight dimensional zone loss. Even if he loses, he will be fine, Feng Qiuyan said. That's true, but what if? Li Xian felt uneasy. In the end, neither side had the ability to kill their generals. Unless one side made a fatal mistake, there was no chance of winning. Do you agree to a draw in this round? The black-robed chess soul asked Zhou. All right. Zhou could also tell that the computer was repeating the previous steps. There was no way to win. Restart. The black-robed chess soul said as the chess pieces on the chessboard automatically returned to their positions. Since it's a draw, I don't plan on continuing. Zhou stood up and wanted to leave, but he realized that he couldn't leave the stone block. Since the game has already begun, "There has to be a victor," said the black-robed chess soul. Zhou didn't say a word as he continued playing chess with the black-robed chess soul. In the next few rounds, neither side was able to kill their generals. All they could do was draw again and again. The situation isn't looking good. That black-robed chess soul is a little powerful. It can actually play so many draws with a master-level computer. Do you think the computer will make a mistake? Li Xian said, "A computer isn't a human brain. It can't make a mistake." Feng Shuyan also became nervous. Although the computer's standard was relatively stable and wouldn't make any mistakes, the black-robed chess soul could actually keep drawing. It would be hard to say if any accidents happened. The treasure in your hand is rather interesting. It can actually calculate the various possibilities of chess game and choose the best plan, the black-robed chess soul suddenly said to Zhou. Zhou was alarmed. The black-souled chess soul's intelligence was clearly much higher than the average chess soul's. It could actually tell the problem with the phone game. Zhou was somewhat worried that the black-robed chess soul would use some means to prevent his phone from functioning normally. However, the black-robed chess soul didn't have such plans. It looked at Zhou and said indifferently, "It's indeed very easy to win that way, but it's not certain. I will win this round." Zhou's heart skipped a beat. In fact, it wasn't that the computer wouldn't lose. Furthermore, this was only a phone game. The algorithm and calculation ability weren't particularly strong. The black-robed chess soul started again, but this time, Zhou could clearly sense that the black-robed chess soul's aura was different. The strong confidence and obsession to win was just too shocking. Zhou continued playing according to the computer's methods. But even a rookie like Zhou could sense that the situation was developing in a disadvantageous direction for him. Not good. This round isn't looking good. In the middle of the game, Feng Shuyan, who had the best chess skills among the three, had already realized that something was amiss. Prepare to receive, old Zhou. Li Xian summoned his carapace and was prepared to fight. Indeed, the situation became more and more disadvantageous for Zhou. Finally, Zhou's veteran had nowhere to go. The word victory appeared on the phone game. He had followed the black-robed chess soul's moves and actually won against the computer grandmaster. Without any hesitation, Zhou switched to the heaven-opening scripture of the highest elder and prepared to fight the black-robed chess soul. The black-robed chess soul looked up and stared at Zhou with a strange smile. "You want to contract a guardian, right?" Chapter 953. Zhou looked at the black-robed chess soul in puzzlement. He had won the chess game, but he didn't immediately use the rules to control his body. Instead, he asked such a question. He didn't know what he was up to. "I have a companion who wants to contract a guardian." Zhou didn't say that he wanted to contract a guardian. If the black-robed chess soul had something wrong with his brain and said that he could contract it, wouldn't that be a little awkward for him? He couldn't attack, but he could not attack either. He couldn't just go up and kill the person who gave him his treasures with a smile, right? Is it that one? The black-robed chess soul glanced at Li Xian. Yes. Zhou nodded. The black-robed chess soul said, "I can give him a chance to try contracting it, but there's a condition." Zhou looked at the black-robed chess soul in shock. This was the first time he knew that a guardian beast could negotiate with others. This intelligence should be considered super among dimensional creatures on Earth, right? Zhou thought for a moment and asked, "What condition?" The black-robed chess soul pondered for a moment before saying, "If you can't contract it, you have to help me destroy the guardian inside the cocoon." Zhou was even more alarmed when he heard that. He never imagined that the black-robed chess soul would make such a request in advance. "Pardon me for asking, but aren't you protecting it?" Zhou asked. The black-robed chess soul didn't answer and only asked Zhou, "You can consider it. If you agree, you can get your companions to try contracting it. If you don't agree, you can leave now." "Why did you choose us?" Zhou asked again. "Because you can help, especially you," the black-robed chess soul answered directly without hiding anything. "I need to discuss it with my companions," Zhou said after some thought. "Sure." The black-robed chess soul nodded slightly. Zhou felt the taboo power on him vanish, and he could stand up from the stone stool. Seeing Zhou return, Li Xian and Feng Qiuyan wore curious looks. Li Xian asked, "Old Zhou, what's going on?" The black-robed chess soul said that we can try contracting a guardian, but there's a condition, Zhou said. There's still a condition? Li Xian and Feng Qiuyan widened their eyes in disbelief. I originally thought that it was impossible, but now it seems that I had some kind of misunderstanding in the past. Zhou now felt that the relationship between guardian beasts and guardians wasn't as simple as he had imagined. Coach, what conditions does the black-robed chess soul have? Feng Qiuyan asked. Zhou repeated the black-robed chess soul's words without changing a single word. Li Xian and Feng Qiuyan exchanged looks when they heard that. Just like Zhou, they found it unbelievable that such a thing could happen. It completely exceeded their imagination. If the contract fails, do we have the ability to kill the guardian? Li Xian asked. I can give it a try. Since the black-robed chess soul dares to take action, I believe he has some confidence. If you want to give it a try, go ahead. Zhou also wanted to get rid of the guardian to prevent another enemy in the future. All right, I'll give it a try. Li Xian didn't hesitate any further. After the three of them reached an agreement, they went up MT Chinese chess and came in front of the black-robed chess soul again. Does it mean that as long as we agree to help you, we could try contracting a guardian? Li Xian asked. That's right. The black-robed chess soul nodded slightly. All right, we agree. Can we try contracting a guardian now? Li Xian looked at the black-robed chess soul. Anytime. The black-robed chess soul looked very easy to talk to. It didn't request Zhou and company to make an oath. In fact, not all dimensional creatures had the ability to bind oaths. It was a very high-level ability that only a few powerful dimensional creatures had. Then I'll be going. As Li Xian walked towards the guardian cocoon, he looked at the black-robed chess soul. The black-robed chess soul sat there leisurely without any intention of stopping him. Li Xian had long learned the method to contract a guardian from Zhou. Without any hesitation, he cut his finger and dripped a drop of blood on the guardian cocoon. Unfortunately, the guardian wasn't interested in Li Xian. Li Xian's blood flowed down without seeping into it. You don't know what's good for you. Li Xian retreated gloomily. You can give it a try too, the black-robed chess soul said to Zhou and Feng Qiuyan. I don't need it, Zhou said. I don't need it either, Feng Qiuyan said firmly. The black-robed chess soul was somewhat surprised. After glancing at them, it said, since you can't contract it, you should fulfill your promise now. What do you plan on doing? What can we help with? Zhou asked. The black-robed chess soul stood up and looked at the guardian cocoon. With a heavy expression, it said, this guardian cocoon shouldn't be here. Zhou was enlightened. In that case, you don't need to protect it? To his surprise, the black-robed chess soul shook its head and said, my duty is indeed to protect it. Therefore, before it contracts, I can't hurt it unless a special situation happens. Zhou guessed the special situation the black-robed chess soul mentioned. He looked at the guardian cocoon and said, do you want it to break out of the cocoon without a contract? The black-robed chess soul nodded and said, a guardian without a contract is not allowed to break out of the cocoon. As long as you can help me break its cocoon and force it out, I can deal with it. In other words, we only need to break the cocoon of the guardian and don't need to participate in the battle, right? Zhou pondered. Of course, if you take the initiative to participate in the battle, you can also participate, said the black-robed chess soul. Zhou and company looked at each other. They never expected the black-robed chess soul's request to be so simple. What did you mean when you said that it shouldn't be here? Li Xian asked. The black-robed chess soul said with a strange expression, this explanation is very complicated. To put it simply, this guardian and I don't belong to this dimensional zone. Due to some accident, we appeared in this dimensional zone. In that case, you aren't a Chinese chess soul? Zhou and company looked at the black-robed chess soul in a daze. No, the black-robed chess soul answered with certainty. This answer made Zhou and company's expressions turn even odder. Li Xian asked, you're a Chinese chess soul. How can you have such powerful chess skills? All chess types have similarities. Although I'm not a Chinese chess soul, I'm also a chess soul. Therefore, it's not difficult for me to learn Chinese chess, said the black-robed chess soul. Chapter 954. Li Xian asked curiously, "What chess soul are you?" The black-robed chess soul smiled without answering. "You humans are too curious. Now isn't the time to explain this. You should fulfill your promise." Zhou thought for a moment and said, "Take Ye down the mountain first. I alone will be enough to destroy the guardian cocoon." Before Li Xian and Feng Xiuyan could say a word, the black-robed chess soul said, "It's useless. Once the guardian breaks out of the cocoon, the nearby area will be under its control. Ignoring the foot of the mountain, even if you walk another 50 kilometers, you will still be within its range." However, Zhou didn't care. He got Li Xian and company to go down the mountain while he stood in front of the guardian cocoon alone. As he didn't know what abilities the guardian inside had, Zhou didn't forcefully break out of the cocoon. He summoned Explosive Fiend Man and got him to use the time bomb skill on the cocoon. "When I'm far away, I'll blast open the guardian cocoon. It's best you stay far away." As Zhou spoke, he descended the mountain and retreated a distance with Ye and company. When he reached the limit of Explosive Fiend Man's control, Zhou ordered Explosive Fiend Man to detonate the time bomb skill that covered the guardian cocoon. Boom! With an earth-shattering boom, the guardian cocoon was blasted into pieces, and the guardian inside appeared. Guardians were basically in humanoid form. Although they were slightly different from real humans, the difference would not be too great. At most, they would have wings or a head that looked like an animal. However, the guardian in front of him looked completely different. At first glance, he didn't find anything humanoid about it. This guardian looked like a canine or feline, but its body wasn't made of flesh and blood. Its outer shell looked like metal, like a mechanical creature. The moment this strange guardian appeared, it immediately confronted the black-robed chess soul. A powerful aura erupted between the soul and the guardian. "Is the battle about to begin?" Li Xian said excitedly as he looked at the mountaintop. "It has long begun." Zhou looked around. Ever since the guardian appeared, a certain nomological power had already covered a large area. They were already far enough from MT Chinese chess, but they were still in this area. Furthermore, this kind of rule power was obviously different from the rule power of MT Chinese chess itself. Zhou also looked at the mountaintop. This battle might be different from ordinary battles. After all, the powers possessed by the chess soul and guardian were different from ordinary combat-type guardians and dimensional creatures. Just as Zhou was looking forward to their battle, he saw them sit down in front of the chessboard again. "What the hell? So it's still chess," Li Xian said in disappointment. However, what they saw next was somewhat different from what they had imagined. The chess pieces on the chessboard automatically exploded, and even the chessboard became somewhat different. Dang! A chess piece landed on the chessboard. The three of them looked at it and saw that it was the chess piece they were familiar with. It was a horse chess piece. Dot! The moment the chess piece landed, Zhou felt his heart palpitate. He pushed Feng Qiuyan and Li Xian and quickly retreated with Ye in his arms. Rumble! There was a huge hoof print where they had been standing, as if an invisible and terrifying creature had landed there. Thankfully, Zhou had reacted quickly enough. Otherwise, the few of them would have been flattened. "What the hell is this?" Li Xian got up and threw out a goo. The goo charged towards the horse's hoof print, but it charged past it as though there was nothing there. Boom! Another loud bang sounded. Not far from them, a hill collapsed as though something heavy had smashed down. Zhou hurriedly looked at the chessboard and saw that there was an additional chess piece on it. It was the black-robed chess soul's piece. The chess piece was different from the guardian's chess piece. Although it was also a horse, there were no words written on it. Instead, it was a statue chess piece in the shape of a horse's head. "That chess piece should be the West District's Chinese chess, right?" Zhou said with a strange expression. "It should be. Although I've never played it before, I've seen others play it before. It should be the West District's Chinese chess. It's completely different from the East District's Chinese chess." Li Xian used his bug eyes skill to see the chessboard on the mountain. Boom! Boom! As the guardian and the black-robed chess soul kept placing their pieces, the surrounding space seemed to fall from an invisible giant, constantly shattering the ground, mountains, and rivers. As for the Guardian, it seemed to be targeting them. Every time it placed a piece, it would cause a disaster where they were. Zhou Wen and company could only constantly move to avoid the disaster that appeared out of thin air. "We can't stay here. We have to rush out." Li Xian led the way and ran out. However, the disaster continued to descend, nearly hitting them several times. This was because of a nomological power. If they were hit, they would probably be instantly killed. No matter how strong their bodies were, it was useless in front of the nomological power. "Sit up." Zhou Wen summoned the Earth Elemental Beast and got Li Xian and company to sit on it. Then he got the Earth Elemental Beast to use Earth Escape to leave. However, when the Earth Elemental Beast used Earth Escape to about 50 kilometers away, it couldn't leave. No matter how it used Earth Escape, it kept circling the edges. Zhou Wen used the heaven-opening scripture of the highest elder and attempted to take a step out. He managed to leave, but was isolated inside and wasn't brought out by him. From the looks of it, the area within 50 kilometers has become a chessboard corresponding to the chess game. The place where the chess pieces land will produce a connection with the corresponding spot, causing terrifying destructive power, Feng Chuyan said. Boom! Another chess piece landed where they were standing. Thankfully, Zhou Wen had already seen where the chess pieces landed on the chessboard and determined the corresponding spot in reality. He dodged with them. "I can only finish that Guardian." Zhou Wen handed to Li Xian and rode the Earth Elemental Beast to the side, heading straight for MT Chinese Chess's Earth Escape. He didn't care about the rules. He wanted to kill the Guardian. Perhaps the Guardian's target was Zhou Wen. The moment Zhou Wen appeared, its chess piece landed again. This time, it was a cannon piece. When it landed, it left a huge cannon crater on the ground. Zhou Wen had the heaven-opening scripture of the highest elder protecting him, so he ignored the rules. He pulled out sword concealment and slashed at the Guardian that resembled a robot dog. He wanted to kill it and end this terrifying chess game. Chapter 955. This guy could tear through space and had astonishing destructive power. Just as the Sky Slash was about to strike the Guardian's body automatically split apart like a machine's parts disintegrating. The Sky Slash slashed through its body, but it failed to injure it. The light concealment sword in Zhou Wen's hand crisscrossed like bolts of lightning, but the Guardian's body also disintegrated into parts. Wherever the Sky Slash slashed, it would disintegrate into smaller pieces to dodge the power of the Sky Slash. Furthermore, every part of its body seemed to have intelligence. While fighting Zhou Wen, its fingers were still pointing at the chessboard. Every time he pointed, a new chess piece would appear on the chessboard. However, this time, the chess piece didn't land on Zhou Wen's spot, but on Li Xian and company. Without Zhou Wen's ability to spy on the chessboard, they had no idea when a chess piece would land on them. They relied on their intuition and experience to dodge a few times, but they were already in danger. Zhou Wen summoned Tyrant Behemoth, Explosive Fiend Man, Torch Dragon, and other companion beasts to attack the Guardian. This move was indeed effective. Under the siege of Zhou Wen's mythical companion beasts, the Guardian that seemed to be able to disintegrate infinitely couldn't withstand the pressure. A portion of the disintegrated parts was shattered by Tyrant Behemoth's punch. However, those shattered parts were actually like nanomachines, reassembling themselves. Under the attacks of the mythical team, this terrifying Guardian was actually able to withstand it. With a cannon move, Feng Chuyan and Li Xian didn't have time to dodge. Li Xian pounced forward and pressed and Feng Chuyan against him. He supported himself with both hands on the ground as the evil aura on his body swayed. The power of the Carapace Life soul was pushed to its limits. Boom! Under the terrifying bombardment, the carapace on Li Xian's back shattered. The fragments stabbed into his body, piercing through his flesh and bones. Instantly, Li Xian looked like a bloody man. Blood dripped down as Li Xian's hands continued supporting himself. A deep crater was blasted open in the surrounding rocks. And Feng Shuyan were protected by him. Wasn't injured, while Feng Shuyan only suffered some minor injuries. President Feng Shuyan couldn't help but be alarmed when he saw that Li Xian's spine was exposed from the explosion. Furthermore, many parts of his body were fractured. "Don't move," Li Xian shouted coldly, stopping Feng Shuyan from crawling out. The wounds on his body were recovering at an extremely fast speed. The carapace was also automatically repairing itself. Most of the wounds were almost healed. Boom! At that moment, another huge hoof sounded. It was as terrifying as the hoof of a Pegasus. It stomped down on Li Xian's back, immediately causing him to spit out blood. Li Xian, who had yet to fully recover, suffered another heavy injury. His armor shattered and his bones nearly snapped. But even so, Li Xian didn't die. The injuries on his body and the shattered carapace rapidly healed again. Zhou Wen knew that Li Xian couldn't last long, but he hadn't found a way to kill the Guardian. All he could do was get Tyrant Behemoth to rush over to provide reinforcements. The Guardian struck Li Xian again and again, but Li Xian managed to survive. However, the situation worsened. Thankfully, Tyrant Behemoth finally rushed over and protected the three of them under its body, blocking the terrifying force that struck down. Tyrant Behemoth, who had absolute strength, spat out a mouthful of blood after withstanding the force. It was severely injured and its bones fractured. Zhou Wen knew that this wasn't because the Guardian was strong, but because he had borrowed the power of MT Chinese Chess's dimensional zone. Tyrant Behemoth wasn't only resisting the Guardian's power, but also the rules of MT Chinese chess. This was truly terrifying power. No matter how strong a companion beast was, it was difficult for it to withstand the power of the entire dimensional zone. Previously, it was all thanks to his life providence that Li Xian was able to resist the rules. The rules of MT Chinese chess were that he would definitely be destroyed if he was struck by a chess piece. However, his life providence was immortal and wouldn't be destroyed. Furthermore, Li Xian's life soul was extremely strange, allowing him to withstand the attacks of the chess pieces. If it were anyone else, even if they had a mythical body, they might not be able to withstand it. Zhou Wen was also attacking the Guardian with all his might, but the Guardian was as tenacious as Li Xian. No matter how many times its body parts were destroyed, even if they were reduced to scraps, they could still be reassembled to form new parts. Its entire body seemed to be made of nano-level robots. Unless one could directly vaporize it or allow it to disappear into nothingness, it was very difficult to kill it. Dying. Zhou Wen also knew that the other side couldn't hold on any longer. He ordered Torch Dragon Youngling to use Bright Torch Vision World. The power of Bright Torch Vision World immediately sucked the Guardian's body in, but the body that was sucked in seemed to only be a part of its body. Soon, nanomachines appeared out of nowhere and began constructing the Guardian's body. Chess Soul, think of a way to escape. Zhou Wen roared at the black-robed Chess Soul before unsummoning all the companion beasts apart from Torch Dragon. He also put on the Jade Crystallescence armor. In the next second, Torch Dragon's body emitted a bright glow as it opened rows of Torch Dragon eyes like an ancient ferocious god. At the same time, it activated Bright Torch Vision World. The black-robed Chess Soul was alarmed when it saw this. Its figure flashed and disappeared. The Guardian's disintegrated body was quickly sucked away by Bright Torch Vision World. Even MT Chinese chess below suffered a terrifying attack and was disappearing piece by piece. The Guardian seemed to realize that it was about to die. Unable to withstand the Bright Torch Vision World in its World King transformation state, it suddenly made a strange move. The remaining body parts charged towards the spot where the Guardian cocoon was previously. However, soon, under the omnipresent Bright Torch Vision World, the Guardian's body was completely sucked in. Even a small portion of MT Chinese chess vanished. The power of the chess game finally vanished. Apart from the dimensional zone's nomological powers, the other powers vanished. Torch Dragon Youngling landed weakly, almost unable to raise its head. Using World King transformation and bright torch vision world with all its might was still too draining on it. It had overdrawn its strength. Thankfully, it had only been used for a blink of an eye. If it had lasted any longer, Torch Dragon Youngling would probably have died first. The black-robed chess soul crawled out from under MT Chinese chess and looked in horror at the vanishing MT Xianqi. Li Xian, are you all right? Zhou didn't have the time to bother with the black-robed chess soul, as he quickly arrived where Li Xian and company were. Tyrant Behemoth was covered in injuries, and it looked very seriously injured. It had only suffered 2 attacks, but it was already so seriously injured. Li Xian had suffered at least 5 or 6 attacks. I'm fine. Li Xian crawled out from below. His body and carapace were healing at a visible speed. Chapter 956. Just as Li Xian's carapace was being repaired, a strange scene suddenly happened. Tiny specks of dust appeared where his carapace had shattered. The specks of dust mixed into the carapace and fused with it, making the carapace's repair speed even faster. However, the repaired carapace was somewhat different from the other intact carapace. It suffused a strange metallic luster as though it was mixed with metallic sand. This is that guardian. What does it want? Don't tell me it wants to occupy my body? Li Xian was given a fright. It chose to use the drop of blood from before to contract with you, and use this to escape death. The black-robed chest soul floated over and said to Li Xian, "Didn't you say that the contract can only be carried out with the consent of both parties? Why didn't I feel anything?" Li Xian asked with a frown. A guardian contract naturally requires both parties to agree, but under such circumstances, it no longer had the time to wait for your consent. Therefore, it chose a method that didn't require your consent, said the black-robed chess soul. Isn't this forcing itself on me? Li Xian said as he looked at the extremely discordant carapace on his body. The parts that glowed with a metallic luster were like patches, and they didn't look good. The black-robed chess soul said with a strange expression, "Typically, both parties have the right to terminate a guardian contract at any time. However, under such circumstances, the guardian's sacrifice is huge. Unless you are willing, it won't be able to terminate the contract with you. If you die, it will die. It can be said that you occupy the absolute dominant position." It sounds good, but isn't this a little too ugly? Li Xian still didn't like the carapace's current appearance. It's fine. It will continue fusing with your armor. In the future, when your armor is shattered and reconstructed, everything will become the same. Or perhaps you can wait a little longer. It was injured too badly just now, and its remaining strength is too weak. It can't completely fuse with it. After it recovers, even if your armor isn't shattered, it will completely fuse with it. When that happens, it will contact you, the black-robed chess soul continued. Since it's already like this, it looks like I can't reject it. I'll reluctantly accept it. By the way, what's this guardian's name? Li Xian asked the black-robed chess soul. Alpha. The black-robed chess soul said its name. However, even if he didn't say anything, Alpha would directly communicate with Li Xian once he recovered some energy. Zhou listened by the side, unsure if he should congratulate Li Xian on his good luck or feel sorry for him. His life soul was problematic to begin with. Now he contracted a heavily injured guardian. Furthermore, he didn't know what kind of contract it was that allowed the guardian to fuse with his problematic life soul. He didn't know what would happen in the future. Thank you for your help. Alpha's mutation has exceeded my expectations. If it weren't for you, I'm afraid I would have been the one defeated, the black-robed chess soul said to Zhou. Why did you destroy it? Zhou asked. The black-robed chess soul hesitated for a moment and said, as you know, Alpha and I should be going to a dimensional zone in the West District. Although the two-dimensional zones are both Chinese chess dimensional zones, the rules are completely different. Due to some accidents, Alpha and I came here. This accident was caused by Alpha himself. He has a problem and has already lost control. He's a defective product and can't represent our race in battle. In addition, after he came to MT Chinese chess, he absorbed and fused with the power here. The problem with him is even greater. It's even more impossible for him to represent our race, so I can only choose to destroy him. Zhou Wen's expression turned even odder when he heard that. Not only did Li Xian have a problem with his life soul, but even getting a guardian was problematic. Who knew if anything would happen to him in the future? Please accept this. I'll be heading to the West District. If you come to the West District in the future, you can take this to the Black and White Chess Country Dimensional Zone. I'm willing to lead the way for you and contract my race's new guardian. The black-robed chess soul took out something and handed it to Zhou Wen. It was a white chess piece that looked like a king in a chess game. I'll take a look when I have the chance, but I might not be able to contract a guardian. Zhou Wen accepted the chess piece. My race's guardian is very compatible with your attributes. If you can fuse with it, you will definitely be invincible in this era. Please consider it carefully. I'll wait for your answer in the Black and White Chess Country, the black-robed chess soul said as he bowed slightly before leaving MT Chinese Chess. The group continued on their way and quickly left the MT Chinese Chess Dimensional Zone. Zhou Wen searched along the way, but unfortunately, he didn't see the tiny palm symbol. Zhou Wen didn't take what the black-robed chess soul said to heart. The black-robed chess soul had only said that because his companion beast was powerful. Zhou Wen was certain that he didn't even know what attribute he had or what essence energy art he cultivated. Ignoring the fact that Zhou Wen didn't plan on contracting a guardian, even if he really wanted to contract one, he wouldn't choose the Black and White Chess Country's guardian. However, if he had the chance, he could head to the Black and White Chess Country to take a look. Perhaps there would be a tiny palm symbol. It would be good for an instance dungeon. In the next few days, they didn't encounter any accidents. Occasionally, dimensional creatures would appear, but their levels weren't high. They could be easily dispatched. However, for some reason, Feng Qiuyan spoke even less along the way. Zhou Wen imagined that it was because he was homesick, but Li Xian could tell what was on Feng Qiuyan's mind. However, it wasn't convenient for him to say anything. "Coach, can I ask you a question?" Feng Qiuyan suddenly came to Zhou Wen's side and asked with a solemn expression. "Can't you just say it? Why stand on ceremony with me?" Zhou Wen said with a smile. Feng Qiuyan looked at Zhou Wen and asked, "Coach, you don't plan on contracting a guardian, right?" "Not at the moment," Zhou Wen answered. "But if you don't contract a guardian, a perfect body life soul is already the end of humanity. What's the next step?" Feng Qiuyan asked. Zhou Wen couldn't help but be taken aback. He didn't immediately answer. He planned on attempting to advance to the mythical stage with the Lost Immortal Sutra, but Feng Qiuyan hadn't cultivated the Lost Immortal Sutra. It didn't seem possible to advance to the mythical stage with his own strength. Currently, there are two confirmed paths for humans to advance to the mythical stage. One is to be like my teacher, Wang Mingyuan, and fuse with a guardian to transform oneself. This way, the human body can break through its limits and no longer have the restriction of not being able to advance to the mythical stage. The other is to contract a guardian and use the guardian's power to advance to the mythical stage. However, this advancement is only the guardian's advancement. One's body won't become stronger. Zhou Wen wasn't a real coach, so he couldn't decide for Feng Qiuyan which path to take. "Coach, which path are you taking?" "The first?" Feng Qiuyan asked. "I won't choose either path. I want to rely on my own strength to advance to the mythical stage. However, this path is basically a dead end," Zhou Wen answered. "So go." Chapter 957. Along the way, Zhou Wen activated the Glimmer Life Soul. When he arrived near Sea Return, the Glimmer Life Soul had improved significantly, but it still seemed a little short of advancing to a perfect body. Every time he rested, Zhou Wen would switch to cultivating the Qi refinement art and absorb primordial crystals in-game to raise Sword Pill's primordial energy. As many of the essence energy crystals Zhou Wen absorbed in-game were at the mythical stage, Sword Pill's essence energy increased rapidly. Zhou Wen could sense that Sword Pill's essence energy had reached a certain limit and was about to advance. However, Zhou Wen still didn't understand how Sword Pill could advance to a perfect body. The last time he advanced to an evolved body, He had practiced the 3,000 sword intense. If he practiced it again this time, it didn't seem to have any effect. From the looks of it, the key to advancing to a perfect body wasn't the sword intense. Since it's called sword pill, it probably has something to do with swords. Could it be that sword pill will transform into a sword this time? Zhou thought to himself. Zhou had already considered this problem previously. He didn't have a sword that he particularly liked. If sword pill really wanted to become a sword, Zhou planned on using the light concealment sword as its prototype. However, sword pill failed to take shape, nor did it advance to a perfect body. If it doesn't turn into a sword, how can I advance sword pill? Zhou considered all sorts of possibilities and tried many methods, but they all failed. After finally arriving at Sea Return, Feng Chun invited Zhou and Li Xian to stay at his place. Zhou and Li Xian didn't stand on ceremony and followed Feng Qiuyan to the Feng family. In fact, there weren't many places to stay in Sea Return City. If they didn't go to the Feng family, their only choice was a hotel in Sea Return City. It was also the only hotel. There were two more famous branches of the Feng family. One was in the imperial capital, and the other was Sea Return's Feng family. As Sea Return was near the sea and the breakout creatures in the nearby sea frequently came ashore, the vicinity of Sea Return City became very desolate. There were very few pedestrians on the streets. When the people of the Feng family saw Feng Qiuyan return, they were all overjoyed. It seemed that Feng Qiuyan should be very favored in the Feng family. When they heard that Zhou and Li Xian were Feng Qiuyan's classmates, the Feng family was especially warm to them. Little Yin, your family status is a little high. There's actually a special guest room, Li Xian said as he sized up the room. Feng Qiuyan said, I'm the eldest son of the family, so I do have some privileges. However, in the future, the responsibilities of the Feng family will be borne by me. Qiuyan, you're back. As the three of them were chatting, a beautiful and dignified woman walked over. Sister Ling, I just came back. I originally planned to look for you after settling down my classmates. Feng Qiuyan chatted with the woman for a while. Little Yin, why didn't you introduce such a beauty to us? Is this your sister? She's really beautiful. Li Xian praised the woman. Li Xian wasn't trying to curry favor with her, but the woman was indeed very beautiful. Even Zhou took a second look at her. This is Qin Ling, Sis Ling. These are my classmates, Zhou and Li Xian. They helped me a lot in school. Feng Qiuyan introduced the three of them. Qin Ling was a very polite woman, but at the same time, she made it difficult for others to get close to her. Although she looked very gentle, she always maintained a certain distance from others. She didn't let others get too close to her. After Qin Ling left, Li Xian asked Feng Qiuyan, Little Yin, she's not your biological sister, right? How did you know? Feng Qiuyan was somewhat surprised. Apart from practicing martial arts, you're really an idiot in everything else. Her surname is Qin and your surname is Feng. How can she be your biological sister? Li Xian said with a twitch of his lips. Feng Qiuyan explained, That's where you're wrong. Our Feng family has a tradition. The boys we give birth to have the surname Feng, but if we give birth to a girl, she has to have the surname Qin. Why is there such a strange rule? Could it be that your mother's surname is Qin? That's not right. It's impossible for women who marry into your Feng family to have the surname Qin, right? Li Xian said in puzzlement. Feng Qiuyan said, Actually, I'm not too sure about the reason. I just heard from the elders that it seems to be a person with the surname Qin. Our Feng family is greatly indebted to him. So in order to thank that person, all the girls in the Feng family have the surname Qin. This tradition has been around for many years before the dimensional storms. It has been maintained to this day. After a pause, Feng Qiuyan said in embarrassment, However, Qin Ling isn't my biological sister. She has no blood relationship with our Feng family. Then what's her relationship with you? I think there's something amiss between the two of you, Li Xian asked nosily. Feng Qiuyan blushed. Actually, Sis Ling is my fiancée. Holy *T. You're only 17, right? Why do you have a fiancée? Furthermore, she's so beautiful. She looks much older than you. She should be in her 20s, right? Li Xian widened his eyes. Feng Qiuyan explained, "See Return is actually more traditional. My father and Sisling's parents are good friends. This marriage was arranged by the family." What era is this? There's actually an arranged marriage. Why didn't I encounter such a good thing? Why don't I have such a beautiful fiancé? The heavens are unfair. Li Xian looked up and sighed. However, Feng Qiuyan's expression darkened. It's not what you think. The reason we got engaged is related to our life providences. It's not an arranged marriage. Life providence? I remember that your life providence is Swift Saber, Heavenly King. Could it be that her life providence is Swift Saber, Heavenly Empress? She happens to be a match for you? Then you're too lucky, Li Xian said. Stop talking. Let Qiuyan finish. Zhou could tell that something was amiss with Feng Qiuyan's emotions. Feng Qiuyan said, her life providence is a scabbard, and her life soul is a saber sacrificer. However, any saber in her hands will become stronger. The reason why my father made her my fiancée was because he fancied her life providence and life soul. They're helpful to me. Although that's the case, Qin Ling is so beautiful. Even if she's a little older, it's still a bargain for you, Li Xian consoled. Sis Ling is indeed very good, Feng Qiuyan said with a sigh. Li Xian was quick-witted as he said, but you don't like it, right? It's not that I don't like it. It should be said that I've never thought about such things. All I want now is to become stronger, Feng Qiuyan said. That's an excuse. If you really like her, you wouldn't have such thoughts. You still don't like her, Li Xian said with a twitch of his lips. Feng Qiuyan looked out the door and saw that no one was there. He lowered his voice and said to Zhou and Li Xian, let me tell you something. You definitely can't tell anyone else. Don't worry. Don't you trust us? We definitely won't tell anyone. Quickly tell me, what's the matter? Could it be that Qin Ling has a lover outside? It's no wonder she's cuckolded. She's already in her 20s. It's not too much for her to have a boyfriend in the past, Li Xian said excitedly. What? Sis Ling isn't that kind of person. Feng Qiuyan hesitated for a moment before saying, I think Sis Ling isn't human. Zhou and Li Xian were taken aback as they looked at Feng Qiuyan in a daze, unsure what he meant. Chapter 958. No, I don't understand. What do you mean? Li Xian looked at Feng Qiuyan in puzzlement. Feng Qiuyan explained, because the two families have a good relationship, I often follow behind Sis Ling when I was young. I was like a little follower. Once, I followed Sis Ling to the nearby beach to play. Back then, there were very few breakout creatures, so it was just the two of us playing by the beach. After hesitating for a moment, Feng Qiuyan continued, I vaguely remember that a breakout creature rushed out of the sea and pounced at us on the beach. It even had a special fishy smell. When I smelled it, my head became groggy as though I was about to faint. At that moment, in a daze, I saw Sis Ling transform into a terrifying form and charge at the breakout creature. Then I fainted. When I woke up, I saw Sis Ling beside me, but I didn't see the breakout creature. When I mentioned the breakout creature, Sis Ling wore a blank look. She asked me if I was too tired from playing and had a nightmare after falling asleep. Feng Qiuyan said with a strange expression, but I don't think it was a dream. However, I didn't find any traces of dimensional creatures nearby, so I kept this matter to myself and didn't tell anyone. How old were you back then? Li Xian asked. 3 or 4 years old, Feng Qiuyan said. What about Qin Ling? Li Xian asked again. 13 or 14, Feng Qiuyan answered after some thought. It's normal for a 3 or 4-year-old child to let his imagination run wild. Perhaps you were really muddled from sleep. If Qin Ling was 13 or 14 years old, she probably wasn't at the legendary stage back then, right? There's basically no possibility of using a companion beast. Li Xian analyzed. I know all of that, Feng Qiuyan said with a strange expression. If you can really confirm that you didn't see wrongly, there's something wrong with Qin Ling, Zhou said. Feng Qiuyan said, I can't be sure if I was dreaming back then, so I want you to help me confirm if I was dreaming back then. How can we be sure? We can't drag Qin Ling over and beat her up and ask if she can transform into a demon, right? Even if we dare ask, she won't admit it. right? Li Xian said. I also know that this matter isn't easy, but I can only entrust it to you, said Feng Qiuyan. All right, let's try our best. I can't guarantee that we can figure it out, Zhou said after some thought. Feng Qiuyan was overjoyed, but he said to Zhou, Coach, I hope this matter can be carried out in secret. No matter what the outcome is, don't let a fourth person know. I understand, Zhou agreed. Old Zhou, how do you plan on investigating this matter? Li Xian asked Zhou one after Feng Qiuyan arranged for the two of them to stay. I don't know. Let's take a look first. Didn't Qiuyan say that he would arrange for us to make contact with Qinling? We'll think of a solution when the time comes, Zhou said. I got a goof in the South District. If it can be attached to a person, it can affect their will. Do you want to give it a try? Li Xian said with narrowed eyes. It's better not. After all, we are guests. It won't be good if the Feng family discovers us, Zhou said with a shake of his head. I'm going to find Hui Haifeng. Do you want to come with me? Zhou asked Li Xian. I'm not familiar with him. There's no point in going. Go by yourself. I'll take a walk nearby, Li Xian said. After the two of them separated, Zhou took to the Hui family. The Hui family was a large family in Sea Return, so he didn't need to ask around to quickly find them. Before arriving, Zhou called Hui Haifeng, who quickly came to the door to pick him up. I didn't expect you to come so quickly. Hui Haifeng smiled and gave Zhou a hug. Zhou was a little unaccustomed to such enthusiasm. The journey was rather smooth, but the situation in Sea Return looks really bad. Hui Haifeng nodded. It's indeed bad. This month isn't over yet, but there have already been 2 small-scale waves of marine dimensional creatures. Although there are basically no casualties, if this happens every month, it will make people very tired. It's very easy for problems to occur. Furthermore, the strongest marine dimensional creatures that come ashore are at the epic stage. Who knows if there will be mythical creatures coming ashore in the future? In short, Sea Return City is in a very troublesome situation. Have you thought of migrating inland? Zhou asked. How can it be that easy to migrate? Ignoring the fact that we have a home and business in Sea Return, even if we can abandon these businesses, how can we find a city that's willing to share resources with us when we go to another city? Hui Haifeng pulled Zhou into the courtyard. Let's not talk about this. Let me show you something good. The Hui family was very big. In fact, this place couldn't be considered a normal home. It was more like a base. When they arrived at a warehouse-like place, Hui Haifeng opened the door and pointed inside. What do you think of this? Zhou saw huge machinery in the warehouse. There were all kinds of gears and electronic instruments. On the left side of the warehouse, there were many devices that looked like treadmills. Many companion beasts were running on them. Can companion beasts be trained like this? Zhou looked at the companion beasts in surprise. What's there to train? This is a companion beast generator. It uses the power of a companion beast to drive the generator and then stores the electricity it produces. After all, when those companion beasts don't need to fight, there's nothing to do. This way, we can use their strength and also let them train, Hui Haifeng said. Zhou had already heard that many places had companion beasts that could generate electricity, but this was the first time he had seen it. Is this considered an environmentally friendly energy source? Zhou said with a smile. I don't know if it's environmentally friendly, but companion beasts can automatically recover their stamina. They don't need to replenish their energy. It's indeed very convenient, Hui Haifeng said as he continued walking into the warehouse. When they reached the innermost part of the warehouse, there was a room separated by glass. One could see many high-precision instruments inside, and many staff were busy inside. After Hui Haifeng and Zhou, changed into special work clothes, they entered the glass room. Then, Hui Haifeng pointed at something in a culture tank and said, Look at this. This is our main research direction. Zhou looked at the culture tank and saw a white blob inside. It looked like a piece of white fat, but it also looked a little like a fungus. What's this? Zhou asked in confusion. Chapter 959. This is an artificial dimensional creature we're researching, Hui Haifeng answered. Artificial dimensional creatures? How? Zhou didn't know anything about this. Hui Haifeng explained. Dimensional creatures are somewhat different from Earth creatures. Earth creatures are basically carbon-based creatures, but dimensional creatures are different. Although some dimensional creatures also have flesh and blood, the material base that makes up them isn't carbon. After research, we discovered that after the creatures on Earth were affected by the dimensional storms, their body composition also underwent some changes, causing some abnormal elements to appear in the original carbon base. Therefore, we extracted this element and attempted to nurture and use it. Based on the current research results, this element can rapidly mutate Earth creatures. It's even possible for them to mutate into life forms similar to dimensional creatures in a short period of time. When Hui Haifeng said that, he excitedly pointed at the item in the incubator and said, "This is the latest result. We used this element to successfully turn an ordinary fungus creature from Earth into a dimensional creature. Although it's only at the most ordinary mortal stage, this is already a huge improvement. In the future, we will conduct experiments on plants and animals. If everything goes well, perhaps one day, humans can become as powerful as dimensional creatures by injecting this element." "Are there any side effects from injecting this element?" Zhou asked worriedly. "From the current experiments, there aren't any side effects for the time being. Don't worry, we will do rigorous experiments. We won't easily let humans take risks." Hui Haifeng continued, "Our goal is to make the human race evolve as a whole. The current human body is too weak. In the future, if humans can be born with a powerful body like dimensional creatures and have a life providence or even a life soul, we won't have to be afraid of any foreign dimensional creatures invading us." "That sounds good," Zhou said with a nod. "However, it's still in the initial stages. There's still a long way to go before real human experiments. I hope that day won't come too late," Hui Haifeng said. After leaving the laboratory, the two of them chatted about their past in school and their current situation. "You are Sea Return's local tyrant. Do you have any special dimensional zones that you can show me?" Zhou was still thinking about downloading dungeons. Hui Haifeng smiled and said, "If you want to see special dimensional zones, you've really come to the right place. Although there aren't many people in Sea Return, there are quite a number of dimensional zones. There are quite a number on land and sea, especially dimensional zones at sea. You definitely won't be able to see such places inland." "What's special about them?" Zhou's interest was piqued. "That's too many. Sea God Reef, Undersea Blue Hole, Infinite Island, and so on are all extremely mysterious dimensional zones. Very few humans can enter them. Even the devils overseas can only take a detour when encountering these dimensional zones." Hui Haifeng recounted the famous dimensional zones near Sea Return to Zhou, one as though he was familiar with them. "Since it's still early, I'll head to the nearby Sea God Reef to take a look," Zhou said. "I still have work to do, so I can't accompany you." "Wait a moment. I'll find a reliable person to lead the way for you," Hui Haifeng said. "There's no need to go through so much trouble. The Feng family's Feng Qiuyan is a member of our Xianwen Club. He's also back. Just get him to be our guide later," Zhou said. "I forgot about that. It's best if Feng Qiuyan goes with you." Hui Haifeng pondered for a moment before reminding Zhou, "It hasn't been peaceful in Sea Return recently. There are many more breakout creatures coming ashore than before. I'm afraid something big will happen soon. Don't go too deep. Just take a look at the coastal areas." After bidding Hui Haifeng farewell, Zhou was just about to contact Li Xian when he heard an air defense alarm suddenly sound in Sea Return City. The ear-piercing sound echoed throughout the city. The streets, which were already sparsely populated, suddenly became crowded with people. However, they were all fleeing in the direction of the underground air raid shelter. "What happened?" Zhou asked someone. "Another sea creature has come ashore. Aren't you going to take refuge in the bomb shelters?" The man said as he hurriedly left. Therefore, Zhou ran towards the coast. A high wall of reinforced concrete had already been built in the periphery of the city. The members of the few families in Sea Return were gathering here. After Zhou went up the high wall, he looked in the direction of the sea and was somewhat alarmed. The waves in the distant sea weren't huge, but huge crabs that resembled tanks crawled out of the sea. There were quite a number of them. Groups of large crabs were heading in the direction of Sea Return City. The large crabs at the front were less than 5 kilometers away from the high wall. Looking at the black mass of crabs that resembled tanks, Zhou couldn't help but lick his lips. He felt his saliva secretion increase tremendously. Previously, Ouyang Lan had taken him to have a meal of crabs. He heard that they were very expensive, but the taste was indeed pretty good. As for the crab, it was only the size of a plate. The crabs here were so huge. If they were cooked and eaten, they might be even more delicious than what Zhou had eaten before. Which family are you from? Why aren't you taking refuge in the bomb shelters? Why are you here? A middle-aged man pulled Zhou and asked when he saw him leaning on the lookout on the high wall and staring blankly at the huge crabs coming from the beach. I'm here to help defend the city, Zhou said. Why are you causing trouble here with the child? Quickly go back and hide, the middle-aged man said as he left. He went there to help transport the supplies. Boom! Zhou heard a loud bang. The cannons set up on the high wall had fired. The cannonballs mixed with essence gold exploded among the crabs. Amidst the intense explosion, the cannonball fragments flew everywhere. Some of the fragments struck the crab's carapace, but the effect was very mediocre. They could only leave some light wounds on the carapace without causing any fatal injuries. Instead, a few crabs had their legs injured and their movement slowed down. Boom! Boom! The cannons kept ringing as cannonballs exploded among the crabs. Zhou could tell that the purpose of the bombs wasn't to kill the crabs, but to blow off their legs. This way, the crabs could no longer rush towards Sea Return City after using their mobility. However, there were just too many crabs that rushed out of the sea. The crabs in front had their legs blown off, but the crabs behind them crawled over and continued charging towards Sea Return City. The cannonball bombardment continued, but there were still many crabs rushing over. When the crabs approached the city, the members of the few families began shooting with the guns in their hands. However, their targets were the crabs' legs. They tried their best to break the joints of the crabs' legs and make them lose their mobility. The capable legendary and epic experts summoned their companion beasts and guarded outside the high wall. They were in charge of repelling the crabs that rushed close. Zhou watched for a while and suddenly realized that there was a behemoth in the sea on the nearby coast. Chapter 960. Zhou used Truth Listener to observe carefully and heard a behemoth moving in the seawater. Before he could determine what the behemoth in the seawater was, he suddenly saw the seawater suddenly rise, forming a huge wave. In the wave, a huge dark blue crab the size of a castle walked out of the sea. The tank-like crab on the beach was already very big, but in front of the dark blue crab, it looked like a newborn crab. Even the 20-meter-tall wall was much shorter in front of the crab. One of its crab pincers was terrifyingly large. Seeing the giant crab come out of the sea, everyone was stunned. Even the epic experts who were fighting the crab horde had a drastic change in expression. Before the giant crab's legs could walk out of the seawater, it suddenly opened its mouth and spewed out countless bubbles. The bubbles flew in the direction of Sea Return City, filling the sky. Someone fired at the flying bubbles. When the bullet hit the bubbles, the seemingly light and thin bubbles didn't shatter. Instead, after the bullet drilled in, it immediately floated in the bubbles as though it had lost gravity. Some people used sabers or ordered companion beasts to rush forward to destroy the bubbles. But no matter what it would be sucked into the bubbles the moment it touched them. Then, the bubbles that had already sucked in something seemed to be pulled into the sky by some force. In the blink of an eye, they flew up to a height of hundreds of meters. Furthermore, they were still rapidly rising as though they were about to break through the atmosphere and enter the universe. When people saw this scene, they began to dodge the bubbles in horror. After all, only a few humans knew how to fly. Some epic humans couldn't fly in the air because they didn't have flying pets. If they fell from such a height, they would probably die a tragic death. Furthermore, the bubbles were still rapidly rising. If they really entered space, they would definitely die. Instantly, the entire Sea Return City's defense line was in chaos. Not to mention ordinary people, even epic experts began to retreat. As for the crab army, as they had lost their effective resistance, a large number of them rushed to the high walls of Sea Return City. They used their steel-like crab pincers to strike the high walls, causing cement to splatter and steel to break. Before long, the high walls would be breached. The bubbles that filled the sky had already floated into the city. Seeing that Sea Return City definitely couldn't withstand such an attack, Zhou put on the jade crystal spirit armor and flew into the sky. Soon, he arrived above the sea. He held a golden harp in his hand, and his fingers strummed the harp fiercely. Buzz! A strange tremor spread out, and then with the golden harp as the center, the bubbles that filled the sky exploded. The crabs that were already on the shore and in the water were all struck by the terrifying sound wave. They all spat out water and fell to the ground. 70 to 80% of them died. Even if there were some that didn't die, they were heavily injured and struggled to get up. Zhou deliberately used string sonic quake at sea that was relatively far from Sea Return City. Although the power of string sonic quake still affected the city, it was relatively weak. It didn't have much lethality against humans. The humans who could fight on the front lines had some cultivation levels. When they were struck by the aftershock, they would at most vomit a mouthful of blood. After being struck, the people of Sea Return City turned their heads and looked outside. They saw that almost all the bubbles had exploded. Countless crab army had died. They couldn't help but be pleasantly surprised. When they looked up again, they immediately saw Zhou in the distant sky. Sea Return City was several kilometers away from the coastline. It wasn't that they had good eyesight that allowed them to see Zhou from so far away. It was because Zhou was wearing the mirror-like jade crystal spirit armor. When the sun shone on him, he was like a human-shaped light source. It was difficult not to see him. The might of string sonic quake isn't bad. Unfortunately, the harp strings are too useless. I can only do this. Zhou glanced at the golden harp in his hand. A few of the harp strings had already broken. It couldn't be used anymore, so all he could do was put it away and let it slowly recover. The gigantic crab was very close to Zhou. It staggered from the shock and nearly fell into the seawater. It couldn't help but fly into a rage as it brandished its huge crab pincers and smashed them at Zhou. Although it was huge, it wasn't clumsy at all. The crab pincers swung in front of Zhou like a gust of wind. At that moment, many people in the city were looking at Zhou in the sky. They were given a fright when they saw the gigantic crab's ghost-like movements. Zhou's expression didn't change as he pulled out his bamboo blade. At the same time, his body flashed rapidly in the form of transcendent flying immortal as he slashed out with Sky Slash. The people in the city only saw the humanoid figure rapidly flash around the gigantic crab like streams of light. When Zhou stopped again, the gigantic crab stopped moving its pincers. Crack! Crack! The gigantic crab's carapace suddenly cracked open as the pincers it raised broke into several pieces. They fell and smashed into the water, stirring up waves. Boom! In the end, even the gigantic crab's body was split into pieces and fell into the sea. It looked as if it couldn't be any more dead. The humans in the city were momentarily stunned when they saw this scene. They stared blankly at the gigantic crab that had fallen into the sea and Zhou, who was like a human-shaped sun in the sky. Moments later, people finally reacted and cheered. The joy of escaping death was unparalleled. Zhou rushed into the seawater and disappeared from everyone's sight. By the time he returned to Sea Return City, the jade crystal spirit armor on his body had vanished. He looked like a young father with Yer in his arms. He wasn't eye-catching at all. However, there was an additional crab tattoo on Zhou's body. It was the gigantic crab companion egg he had fished out of the sea before hatching. Deep blue crab sovereign, mythical life providence, overlord of the sea life soul, heart of the ocean wheel of destiny, gravity loss control strength, 80 speed, 71 constitution, 80 essence energy, 79 talent skill, gravity bubble, overlord pincer, deep sea emperor, companion form. Mount and ocean mount? That's not bad. Zhou didn't have an underwater mount. The great Might Vajra bull was afraid of water. It was fine for it to wade through a small river, but it was impossible for it to enter the sea. The earth elemental beast was fine in the water, but it happened to lack an underwater mount. However, the deep blue crab sovereign was too big. It probably couldn't be used in the river, so it could only be used in the sea. From the looks of it, my luck has been pretty good recently. I've obtained such a good mythical companion beast the moment I came to see return. Perhaps this will be my blessed land, Zhou thought. Chapter 961. Why are you still loitering here? What if you hurt the child? You don't know the severity of the situation. Thankfully, a powerful human expert killed that giant crab. Otherwise, if it rushed into the city and something happened to the child, I want to see how you will explain it to your wife. The middle-aged man met Zhou again and reprimanded him. I'll leave now, Zhou hurriedly said, knowing that he had good intentions. Stay at home and take care of the child. These children are our future. The middle-aged man lectured Zhou again. Before he left, he didn't forget to urge Zhou to return early. Zhou carried the child and headed for another city gate. He still wanted to visit Sea God Reef. His luck today seemed pretty good. He had a feeling that he might find the tiny palm symbol. Sea God Reef was also known as the Dragon King Reef by the locals. Every time the tide receded, one could see a dragon-shaped reef floating on the surface of the sea like a divine dragon rising and falling in the seawater. Legend had it that the reef was formed from a divine dragon. Due to the restrictions of the world, sea dragons weren't allowed to go ashore. However, the divine dragon's newborn child was fished ashore by a fisherman because of its playfulness. In order to save its child, the divine dragon ignored the restrictions of the world and rushed onto land to snatch its child back. However, because it violated the restrictions, it turned into stone before it could return to the sea and remained here ever since. This was originally just a legend. Later, after the dimensional storms, an area near Sea God Reef became a dimensional zone. Many terrifying dimensional creatures appeared inside. Up to now, no one had truly reached Sea God Reef. It was unknown if Sea God Reef had transformed back into a divine dragon. Now, Sea God Reef couldn't be seen from the sea. In the shallow sea, there were many shrimp soldiers and crab generals. They were all powerful, epic existences. Legend had it that deeper in Sea God Reef was Turtle Prime Minister. It was said to be a powerful, mythical dimensional creature. Of course, no one dared to enter the deep sea, so they didn't know if these legends were true. There weren't many people in Sea Return City who dared to enter Sea God Reef. When Zhou arrived, he didn't encounter anyone. Before coming, Zhou had contacted Li Xian, but his phone wasn't working. He was probably in a dimensional zone. Young man, why aren't you listening to my advice? Why are you running around with a child? Just as Zhou arrived at the periphery of the Sea God Reef dimensional zone, he heard a familiar voice before he entered. He turned around and saw that it was indeed the middle-aged man from before. Brother, what a coincidence. Why are you here too? Zhou asked the middle-aged man with a smile. The crabs that came ashore this time might be related to the Sea God Reef, so I came to investigate. I say, what's wrong with you? You're already an adult, and you even have a child. How can you be so reckless? The middle-aged man said. This is my sister, Zhou explained. Then all the more reason why you shouldn't have brought her to such a dangerous place. Your mother is already so old. How much effort and risk did she have to take to give birth to another daughter? If anything happens to her, how are you going to answer to the two elders? The middle-aged man tried his best to educate Zhou. Just as Zhou was about to explain, he suddenly heard a dragon roar coming from the sea. The two of them subconsciously turned their heads and saw that the dragon roar was coming from the direction of Sea God Reef. However, as they were still outside the dimensional zone, the surface of the sea was covered in fog. They couldn't see anything clearly. They could only walk in to know what was happening inside. Quickly send your sister back. If you want to take the risk yourself. Don't joke around with the child's safety. The middle-aged man exhorted Zhou before running towards Sea God Reef. Brother, I don't know what's going on inside. It's best you don't go in, Zhou kindly reminded him. My job is to investigate the nearby dimensional zones. If there's danger, I have to give a warning in advance. Quickly go back. I have to figure out what happened here, the middle-aged man said as he rushed into the Sea God Reef dimensional zone. Zhou originally didn't plan on entering. He just wanted to search for the tiny palm symbol outside. But seeing that the middle-aged man was a good person, he thought for a moment and decided to enter to take a look. If anything really happened, he could help him. In this era, there weren't many people who were willing to care about others. Zhou really didn't want anything to happen to him. He walked in the fog with Yer in his arms. The fog looked so thick that it couldn't dissipate, but when Zhou walked in, he saw a beautiful golden beach. The middle-aged man was standing on the beach, staring blankly in the direction of the sea. Zhou traced his gaze, and his eyes lit up. He saw a golden dragon frolicking in the seawater. Its scales seemed to be made of gold as they shimmered with a mysterious glow under the sunlight. After all, Zhou had seen many dragons and killed some. He quickly reacted and hurriedly used turtle aura to converge his aura to the extreme to prevent attracting the golden dragon's attention. The golden dragon's aura was comparable to the white dragon Zhou had met in Dragon's Well. They were extremely terrifying existences. Without knowing the other party's abilities, Zhou wasn't willing to fight it. The golden dragon didn't seem to mind the insect like humans. It swam the sea as though it was in a good mood. The middle-aged man snapped out of his shock. Clearly, he knew very well that he couldn't be compared to the golden dragon. He slowly retreated, hoping to leave the Sea God Reef dimensional zone. After taking a few steps back, he saw Zhou carrying Yer. His expression immediately changed. Zhou hurriedly gestured for him to keep quiet to prevent alarming the golden dragon. Thankfully, the middle-aged man wasn't stupid. He knew that he couldn't alarm the golden dragon, so he didn't plan on saying anything. He swallowed the words he wanted to reprimand Zhou. The two of them slowly retreated, not daring to retreat too fast. They just moved step by step. However, before they could go far, the golden dragon seemed to sense something and turned to look at Zhou and company. The golden crystal-like dragon eyes lit up when it saw them. Then, half of its body emerged from the sea and stared down at them. We're doomed. The uncle's heart palpitated. Being targeted by such a terrifying creature meant that the chances of survival were slim. The golden dragon stared at them for a while before suddenly raising its head and letting out a shocking dragon roar. With its dragon roar, the calm surface of the sea instantly became turbulent. Then, Zhou and the middle-aged man saw rows of odd-looking shrimp soldiers and crab generals on the waves as they rushed to the shore. Let's go. The middle-aged man pulled Zhou and turned to rush out of the dimensional zone. However, when they turned around, rows of prawn soldiers and crab generals were already standing behind them. They had long since sealed off their escape route. The legendary mythical creature, Turtle Prime Minister, had actually bowed to a young man. Furthermore, he had respectfully addressed him as Lord. This was unbelievable. The middle-aged man looked at Zhou with an odd expression. Now, he suspected that Zhou was a terrifying dimensional creature that had transformed into a human. Who's your master? Zhou looked in the direction of the sea, but the golden dragon had already vanished. Sir, you've already met my master. Now, my master is waiting for you in the Dragon Palace, Prime Minister Turtle said. Then I'll meet him. This person doesn't have any ill intentions towards you. Let him leave, Zhou said as he pointed at the middle-aged man. My lord, we will naturally obey your orders. Prime Minister Turtle stood up and waved his hand. The shrimp soldiers that were blocking the way immediately made way. Dimensional creatures are ferocious and violent. It's best you don't take the risk, the middle-aged man said hesitantly. It's fine. It's just a dragon palace. It can't trap me. Go back first, Zhou said. The middle-aged man wore an odd expression, but he didn't say anything else. He turned around and headed for the dimensional zone's exit. Indeed, none of the shrimp soldiers stopped him. They lined up to welcome Zhou Wen into the sea like a guard of honor. The shrimp soldiers and crab generals lined up on both sides, separating the seawater. It was as though a curtain had been lifted from the sea, revealing a path that led deep into the sea. When the middle-aged man saw Zhou Wen walk into the sea with the child, he gritted his teeth and left the dimensional zone. When he arrived outside the dimensional zone, he looked back at the fog-shrouded beach and sea. He felt like he had been dreaming. A mythical dimensional creature actually knelt to a young human. "I'm afraid no one will believe me, even if I tell them, right?" The middle-aged man suspected if he had been hallucinating. With Prime Minister Turtle leading the way, Zhou Wen walked all the way to the deep sea. The scenery at the bottom of the sea was beautiful and mysterious. In the curtain-like seawater, he could see all kinds of sea creatures wandering everywhere. He even saw a few beautiful women lying in shells. They were likely the legendary clam fairies. Zhou Wen had always imagined that the sea dragons lived in underwater palaces, just like the famous Crystal Palace. That was the residence of the East Sea Dragon King. However, this Dragon King didn't seem to be too particular. When Zhou Wen arrived at the so-called Dragon Palace, he realized that it was a huge, sunken ship. Zhou Wen didn't know much about ships, nor did he know what type it was. However, from the size of the ship, Zhou Wen guessed that it was the top marine combat unit of humanity before the dimensional storms, an aircraft carrier. However, after the dimensional storms, aircraft carriers, various fleets, and cruise ships were mostly sunk by dimensional creatures. Even if this ship wasn't an aircraft carrier, it didn't look like a dragon palace at all. The sunken ship seemed to be protected by some force, preventing the seawater from approaching it. Zhou Wen followed Prime Minister Turtle to the deck. The Prime Minister Turtle knelt down on one knee again and lowered his head towards the cabin. "My lord, His Excellency is here for an appointment. My lord, please follow me." A graceful clam woman walked over leisurely. After bowing at Zhou Wen, she made an inviting gesture. Zhou Wen followed her into the cabin and soon arrived at a relatively large cabin. Just as Zhou Wen was wondering how the gigantic golden dragon had entered the cabin, he saw a voluptuous woman dressed in golden armor with dragon horns on her head. Her hair was also golden. She was sitting on a wide chair opposite him like a queen. However, the chair didn't look like the legendary Dragon King coral chair. Instead, it looked like the chair on a human battleship control panel. So that golden dragon is actually female. She can even transform into a human form. Zhou Wen was somewhat surprised as he couldn't help but size up the Dragon Queen. The Dragon Queen's skin was fair, but her pupils were golden. She looked at Zhou Wen and asked, "Are you the spokesperson of the ancient dragon race?" "What ancient dragon race? I've never heard of it," Zhou Wen said. "If you're not the spokesperson of the ancient dragon race, why do you have a keepsake of the ancient dragon race?" the Dragon Queen asked with a frown. "A keepsake of the ancient dragon race." Zhou Wen was slightly taken aback before he recalled something. He took out the dragon tooth pendant around his neck and said, "Are you talking about this? This was carved by my teacher using a dragon tooth. It's just an ordinary gift, not a keepsake." The Dragon Queen stared at Zhou Wen for a while. "Since you have the ancient dragon race's keepsake, no matter where you obtained it from, you are the spokesperson of the ancient dragon race. From today onwards, you are the son-in-law of my dragon palace." Chapter 963. Zhou Wen looked at the Dragon Queen in astonishment. No matter how he thought about it, he never expected the Dragon Queen to say such a thing. He was a pure human, and the Dragon Queen was a dimensional creature. They weren't of the same species at all. How could he become the Dragon Palace's son-in-law? Furthermore, Zhou Wen had never thought of marriage. All he could do was say, "Thank you for your kindness, but I don't plan on getting married." When the Dragon Queen heard Zhou Wen's answer, her expression immediately turned cold. "Die or become the Dragon Palace's son-in-law. Choose one." Zhou Wen looked at the Dragon Queen with a strange expression and asked, "There are many humans. If you want to get married, many human men should be willing. Why must you choose me?" The Dragon Queen said with a cold expression, "A mere human doesn't even have the right to look at me. Am I not a human? Zhou asked in puzzlement. The Dragon Queen didn't answer. She only stared at him coldly and said, "Give me an answer immediately. Do you want to become the Dragon Palace's son-in-law, or do you want to die here?" "Sorry, I don't plan on getting married yet." Zhou naturally wouldn't choose to become the Dragon Palace's son-in-law. She wasn't of the same species. The Dragon Queen flipped out when she heard that. "Take it down." With the Dragon Queen's voice, shrimp soldiers and crab generals immediately rushed forward. The shrimp soldiers stabbed at Zhou with their shrimp spears. Zhou used his movement technique and rushed toward the cabin's exit. The row of shrimp soldiers guarding the exit also stabbed at Zhou with their shrimp spears. Zhou unsheathed his bamboo blade and sliced all the shrimp spears in front of him. He carried to the deck. Prime Minister Turtle stood on the deck, his previous humble attitude completely gone. He carried the huge spear and smashed it at Zhou. The spear was fast and ferocious. Furthermore, the spear was extremely heavy. Zhou estimated that his strength probably couldn't withstand such a powerful attack, so he could only use his movement technique to dodge. Prime Minister Turtle brandished his spear like a gale, sweeping away fallen leaves. His huge body didn't look clumsy at all. Zhou dodged left and right. Although he dodged the attack, he was momentarily unable to shake off Prime Minister Turtle. A Prime Minister Turtle is already so powerful. The Dragon Queen must be even more terrifying. Zhou didn't panic. He had teleportation and invisibility. Even if he couldn't beat them, he could escape. This guy is completely different from the legendary Prime Minister Turtle. He's a super berserker. Zhou saw that Prime Minister Turtle was becoming more and more ferocious as the battle progressed. Furthermore, it was invulnerable. Zhou's attacks didn't pose much of a threat to it, so he didn't want to waste time with it. He switched to the new era Life Soul and used his teleportation ability to rush out of the Dragon Palace and into the sea. No matter how ferocious Prime Minister Turtle was, he couldn't catch up to the teleporting Zhou. After a few teleportations, Zhou had already shaken off Prime Minister Turtle. Just as he was about to swim out of the sea, he suddenly saw a golden figure flash. It was the Dragon Queen dressed in golden dragon scale armor. Her figure was voluptuous, but her fists were even more voluptuous than her figure. With a punch, the seawater formed a terrifying vortex under her fist, causing Zhou's body to involuntarily be sucked towards her fist. Zhou hurriedly used teleportation to rush out of the terrifying fist force's range. However, just as Zhou teleported out, the Dragon Queen appeared in front of him. The terrifying fist force was about to land on Zhou. Zhou had no choice but to teleport again, but after several consecutive teleportations, he failed to escape the Dragon Queen. Every time he teleported out, the Dragon Queen would appear in front of him. What was even more terrifying was that Zhou had teleported so many times. Logically speaking, he should have already rushed out of the sea and arrived at the beach, but all he could see was endless seawater. It was as though he was still deep in the sea. Where I am is deep blue. No matter how powerful you are, you can't escape this sea. If you agree to become the Dragon Palace's son-in-law now, I can give you a chance, the Dragon Queen said as she chased after Zhou. What do you see in me? I'll change, all right? Zhou said speechlessly. Unless you die, you have to become the Dragon Palace's son-in-law. The Dragon Queen wasn't human, so she couldn't hear the sarcasm in Zhou's words. You are a dragon, and I'm a human. We aren't of the same race. It's impossible for us to marry each other, Zhou said as he dodged. At the same time, he was thinking of a way to escape. Who said I want to marry you? I want you to become the Dragon Palace's son-in-law and marry my sister. She is half human blood, the Dragon Queen said. Wait, are you saying that you want me to marry your sister? But I've never seen your sister. Who is your sister? Zhou was slightly taken aback. The Dragon Queen stood opposite Zhou, and didn't continue attacking. She took out a shell and opened it. Light immediately shot out from the shell like a holographic projection. The light condensed into a woman's figure. Qin Ling. Zhou cried out involuntarily when he saw the woman's figure. Without a doubt, the figure was Qin Ling. It was identical, so it was impossible for him to be mistaken. You've seen her? That's for the best. In that case, stay in the dragon palace in peace and wait to marry my sister, the dragon queen said. Wait. Zhou extended his hand to stop the dragon queen who was about to capture him. He looked at her and said, if your sister is really Qin Ling, then she already has a fiancé and their relationship is very good. I believe that even if I'm willing to marry her, she won't be willing to marry me. I think you're mistaken. It's best you ask your sister first. The dragon queen said coldly, ordinary humans aren't qualified to marry my sister. Your sister's fiancé isn't an ordinary human. He's very talented and will definitely become a top expert in the future. He'll surpass me in no way. Zhou praised Feng Qiuquan like there was no one in the world. However, his words were sincere. Feng Qiuquan's talent was indeed unparalleled. Furthermore, he was very hardworking, not inferior to Zhou. It's useless no matter how outstanding he is. Without the recognition of the dimensional law, it's impossible to marry, the dragon queen said. What dimensional law? I'm also a human. If he isn't recognized, I won't be recognized either, right? Zhou was even more puzzled. You're different. You have already been recognized, the dragon queen said. I've been recognized? When? Zhou was even more puzzled. He didn't have a seal on his head, so why did the dragon queen say that he had been recognized? The dragon queen snorted coldly. You're still playing dumb. Do you think I don't recognize the heavenly happiness card? Heavenly happiness card? Zhou immediately realized something and hurriedly took out the stone tablet that Emperor of Shang had given him. Are you talking about this? Chapter 964. That's right. The Dragon Queen looked at the stone monument and nodded. If that's the case, it's very simple. I can give it to your sister's fiancé. That way, they can be legitimate, Zhou said. The heavenly happiness token has already been contracted with you. What's the point of giving it to him? The Dragon Queen snorted coldly. Holy **T. Why did Emperor Shang give me such a token? I really didn't want to get married. Zhou regretted it so much that his intestines turned green. If he had known this would happen, he wouldn't have taken the token. However, on second thought, Feng Qiuquan's fiancée wasn't human. At the very least, she wasn't a pure human. Feng Qiuquan probably hadn't seen wrongly when he was young. Your Majesty, it doesn't matter if there's a token or not. I can tell that your sister and my classmate, Feng Qiuquan, are truly in love. Why do you have to separate them? Zhou wanted to use words to move the Dragon Queen. If he thought about it carefully, this Dragon Queen was Feng Qiuquan's sister-in-law. In the future, they might be on the same side, so it wasn't good to fight. Without the heavenly happiness token, it's useless whatever you say. If you can't use the heavenly happiness token to reverse her fate and break the taboo, she can only become the Seven Seas Dragon King's concubine, the Dragon Queen said. What Seven Seas Dragon King? Zhou was somewhat puzzled when he heard that. He had only heard of the Four Seas Dragon Kings. What the hell was the Seven Seas Dragon King? Why would Qin Ling become his concubine? The Dragon Queen had a favor to ask of Zhou, so she had no choice but to patiently explain. This sea is called the Seven Dragons Sea. In fact, it's a huge dimensional zone. Sea God Reef is only a small dimensional zone. In every dimensional zone like Sea God Reef, there's a dragon monarch. However, the supreme ruler of the Seven Dragons Sea is the Seven Seas Dragon King. He's the supreme existence that rules over everything in the Seven Dragons Sea. After explaining the cause and effect of the Dragon Queen's matter, Zhou finally had a clearer understanding of the entire matter. Dragons were extremely lustful. In fact, the seven dragon monarch domains of the Seven Dragons Sea were the Seven Seas Dragon King's harem base. Once a new female dragon was born, they would be included in the Seven Seas Dragon King's harem. The Dragon Queen's father was the Dragon King of the Sea God Reef, and her mother was also a dragon. As the Seven Seas Dragon King wanted to occupy her mother, the old Dragon King of the Sea God Reef fought the Seven Seas Dragon King and was eventually killed by the Seven Seas Dragon King. Her mother was also seriously injured in that battle and was saved by a human. Later, for some reason, Her mother gave birth to Qin Ling with that human and passed away. The Seven Seas Dragon King didn't kill them all and made the Dragon Queen the Dragon Queen of Sea God Reef. However, the Seven Seas Dragon King didn't do it out of kindness. He was waiting for the Dragon Queen and Qin Ling to reach adulthood. Once they reached adulthood, they had to become concubines of the Seven Seas Dragon King. Have you never thought of killing the Seven Seas Dragon King? Zhou asked. The Seven Seas Dragon King is a terror-grade existence. Even if the seven dragon monarchs join forces, they won't be his match, the Dragon Queen said indifferently. Terror-grade? Zhou felt a headache when he heard that. Banana Fairy's evolution hadn't been completed, so Zhou didn't have a good solution to the terror-grade. Can't you escape inland with your sister? The world is so huge. It's impossible for the Seven Seas Dragon King to find you, right? Zhou said after some thought. The Dragon Queen nodded and said, I think so too. However, we are restricted by the dimensional zone. It's impossible for us to leave the sea. I can't even leave the dimensional zone. My sister has half a human bloodline. She can leave the dimensional zone, but she can't be too far from the sea. Unless, at this point, the Dragon Queen didn't continue as she looked at Zhou. Zhou immediately understood what she meant and said, the heavenly happiness token on me can remove the dimensional zone's restrictions on her, right? That's right. That's why she can only marry you. With the power of the heavenly happiness token, she can escape the restrictions of the dimensional zone, the Dragon Queen said. However, Zhou shook his head and said, I only have one heavenly happiness token. Even if I can save Qin Ling, I can't save you too, right? I'll handle my own matters. All you need to do is marry Qin Ling and take her inland, the Dragon Queen said. Impossible. Zhou shook his head. If you don't do it, you'll die, the Dragon Queen said with a cold expression. Zhou looked at the Dragon Queen and continued, it would have been fine if I didn't know about it. But now that I know about it, I'll feel very uncomfortable if I watch a tragedy happen to you and your sister without doing anything. If you're willing, please let me help you kill the Seven Seas Dragon King and save you and the entire Seven Dragon Sea. Zhou thought that this might be a good opportunity. He might be able to obtain huge benefits while the Seven Dragons Sea was in chaos. The Dragon Queen looked at Zhou as though she was looking at a fool. Do you know what an existence of the Terror Grade is? It's an existence that can kill you thousands of times with a finger. Actually, I've seen a few of the Terror Grade. They're not as terrifying as you make them out to be. If you believe me, give me some time. I'll definitely be able to save you. Zhou thought about how to convince the Dragon Queen to become his spy in the Seven Dragon Sea. No matter how much time you have, it's impossible for a human like you to defeat the Seven Seas Dragon King. Besides, there's no time. According to the dragon race's standards, Qin Ling will be an adult in half a year, the Dragon Queen said. What about you? Zhou asked the Dragon Queen. Less than a month. The Dragon Queen hesitated for a moment before answering Zhou's question. Less than a month? Zhou pondered. It was clearly very difficult to advance to the Terror Grade. Zhou didn't know if Banana Fairy could complete her advancement in a month. Stop dreaming. There's only one path for you now. Marry Qin Ling and take her inland, making it so that the Seven Seas Dragon King will never find her, the Dragon Queen said. If I want to take her away, I should take you away. What Zhou meant was that Qin Ling still had half a year, and the Dragon Queen only had a month left. He naturally had to save the Dragon Queen first. He could still stall for time to think of a solution for Qin Ling. However, these words sounded different in the Dragon Queen's ears. She looked at Zhou in a daze. Zhou didn't feel that there was anything wrong with his words, nor did he notice the Dragon Queen's abnormality. He was now thinking that this might be a great opportunity. It was very difficult to kill a Terror-grade dimensional creature, but if he had the help of a spy, he might still have a chance. According to the Dragon Queen, the seven dragon monarchs of the Seven Dragons Sea probably didn't have a good impression of the Seven Seas Dragon King. They might even hate him to the bone. If he could incite an internal strife, he might have a chance to kill the Seven Seas Dragon King. It wasn't realistic to kill the Seven Seas Dragon King in a terror form, But the Terrorgrade wasn't always in a terror form. If he could catch him off guard, he might not need to wait for Banana Fairy to complete her evolution. You should have a name, right? How should I address you? Zhou asked the Dragon Queen. Chapter 965. Mia, the Dragon Queen answered. Mia, actually, it's not a good idea to take Qinling away. The dimensional zones will definitely be unsealed in the future. When the time comes, will the Seven Seas Dragon King let her off? I'm afraid his hatred will only deepen when the time comes. If he's caught, it will be even worse. The only solution is to kill the Seven Seas Dragon King. Only then can the two of you obtain true liberation, Zhou said sincerely. Zhou said sincerely. We can deal with the Seven Seas Dragon King together. Can you tell me what kind of dimensional creature the Seven Seas Dragon King is? Unless I can advance to the Terrorgrade, there's no hope, Mia said, but she still told Zhou about the Seven Seas Dragon King. As Mia's father had once risked his life with the Seven Seas Dragon King back then, Mia had witnessed the battle with her own eyes. She knew the Seven Seas Dragon King's abilities rather well. However, even Mia didn't understand some of the abilities the Seven Seas Dragon King used. Therefore, when she explained them, there were some parts that were only described. According to Mia, the Seven Seas Dragon King didn't seem to be a divine dragon in the traditional sense. It had 7 dragon heads and a massive body. Any one of the dragon heads possessed unparalleled strength. Furthermore, as long as one was grabbed by the Seven Seas Dragon King, it would be difficult for them to escape. Back then, Mia's father's combat strength was extremely powerful. The reputation of the Golden Dragon King made him a top existence in the Seven Dragon Seas. He was considered the strongest combat force in the Seven Dragon Seas, and his golden dragon body was almost immortal. However, after being grabbed by the Seven Seas Dragon King, his golden dragon body couldn't withstand the terrifying power. In the end, Mia watched as her father's golden dragon body was devoured by the Seven Seas Dragon King. Does every dragon head of the Seven Seas Dragon King have different elemental powers? For example, wind, fire, lightning, and so on? Zhou thought of the Orochi he had previously seen. No, the 7 dragon heads have the same strength. They can spit out a terrifying liquid. Once you're touched by the liquid, your body will be immobilized and you can only be slaughtered, Mia said. What's its terror form like? Zhou asked in detail. I didn't see it. When it used its terror form, the sea stirred up huge waves. All I could see was a terrifying dragon body tumbling in the waves. I couldn't see its full appearance, Mia answered. From what you said, if you're willing to join forces with me, we might have a chance of killing the Seven Seas Dragon King. If we can contact the other 6 dragon monarchs and get them help, we will have a greater chance, Zhou said. You can't even defeat me. What right do you have to say that you can kill the Seven Seas Dragon King? Although Mia still retorted, for some reason, she didn't say that Zhou was delusional. Who says I'm not your match? I just don't want to use my true strength to harm you, Zhou said. Mia looked at Zhou and said, then use your true strength. Unless you really have the strength to convince me, I definitely won't let Qinling take such a risk. Zhou knew that Mia's combat strength was powerful. Her strength and physique seemed to be in no way inferior to Tyrant Behemoth. It wasn't easy to defeat her. Thankfully, Zhou was known as the man with the most companion beasts on Earth and the highest quality. Zhou summoned Tyrant Behemoth and landed in front of Mia. He looked at her and asked, do you know what this is? Tyrant Behemoth. I've seen it on the rankings. So its owner is you. Mia was slightly surprised. She never expected Zhou to have such a powerful companion beast like Tyrant Behemoth. However, although Tyrant Behemoth was powerful, Mia didn't believe that she was inferior to it. Even if Zhou was Tyrant Behemoth's owner, he definitely didn't have the ability to challenge the Seven Seas Dragon King. Even she and Turtle Minister couldn't do it. Do you believe me now? Zhou asked. Although Tyrant Behemoth is strong, it might not be able to defeat me, Mia said. Then what if I add these? Zhou began summoning companion beasts. He summoned the 3 demon blood true dragons, light concealment sword, and deep blue crab sovereign. When Mia saw that Zhou had so many mythical companion beasts, she couldn't help but be alarmed. She already believed what Zhou had said. No matter how many ordinary mythical companion beasts there are, it's impossible for them to kill the 7 Seas Dragon King. This is because the Terror Grade is in existence on another level. It's not something that can be defeated with numbers, Mia said. It's not just quantity. There's also quality. Zhou summoned Torch Dragon again. Torch Dragon. Mia recognized Torch Dragon at a glance. Dragons were perhaps the dimensional creatures with the most branches. There were almost countless dragon-type creatures. Some dragons weren't very strong, and they couldn't even reach the mythical stage. However, some dragons were terrifyingly powerful. They could even fight terrifying existences at the Calamity Grade. Torch Dragon was undoubtedly one of the most terrifying existences among dragon-type creatures. As a dragon, Mia naturally recognized it. Unfortunately, it's still a juvenile. If it can reach adulthood and transform into its terror form, it might really be able to kill the 7 Seas Dragon King. Mia carefully sized up Torch Dragon and said in disappointment when she saw that it was still a juvenile. Even if it's still young, it's ultimately a Torch Dragon. Its bright torch vision world should still be of some use against the 7 Seas Dragon King. Furthermore, we don't need to fight it head-on. As long as you tell me the details of the 7 Seas Dragon King, I can't think of a way to assassinate it without it transforming into its terror form. Zhou continued persuading Mia. This is too dangerous. There's almost no chance of success, Mia said after some thought. As long as you believe me, we can think of a way. I will save you and your sister from the sea of misery. Zhou knew that it wasn't easy to make Mia believe him. After all, they were facing the Terror Grade 7 Seas Dragon King. However, Zhou needed Mia's help, so he could only patiently win her trust. What do you want to do? Mia asked after some hesitation. Do you think we can convince the other 6 Dragon Monarchs? Zhou asked. Absolutely impossible, Mia answered with certainty. Why? Aren't they also suppressed by the 7 Seas Dragon King? Don't tell me they don't want to resist. Zhou said in disbelief. That depends on having the ability to resist. Apart from me being forced to do so, the other Dragon Monarchs won't risk their lives to resist, Mia said with certainty. In that case, tell me about the other 6 Dragon Monarchs and their dimensional zones first. Perhaps I can think of a solution. Zhou wanted to obtain as much information as possible. Mia explained the situation in the 7 Dragon Seas to Zhou in detail, making him sigh at how good it felt to have a spy provide information. He didn't need to go anywhere to understand the situation in the 7 Dragon Seas. Chapter 966. After Zhou figured out the situation in the 7 Dragon Seas, he realized that the 7 Dragon Seas didn't have any proper Dragon Monarchs. Mia was already considered the most normal dragon in the 7 Dragon Seas. According to her, the Dragon Monarchs in the other 6 dimensional zones basically didn't have true dragon forms. Some looked like crocodiles, some looked like lobsters, and one looked like a whale. However, because they all had some dragon bloodline, they also called themselves Dragon Monarchs. That 7 Seas Dragon King shouldn't be a purebred Dragon Monarch. In Zhou's impression, a purebred Dragon Monarch was likely like the white dragon in Dragon's Well. If it were any other time, Zhou wouldn't have gone to unknown dimensional zones to kill dimensional creatures. However, with Mia's intelligence, things were different. As long as Mia's intelligence wasn't wrong, it wouldn't be difficult for Zhou to rush into the dimensional zones to kill the Dragon Monarchs. After all, those single mythical creatures were no match for a group of mythical pets. Do you think those Dragon Monarchs will help the 7 Seas Dragon King to become enemies with us if we fight him to the death? Zhou slowly enticed Mia. If the 7 Seas Dragon King summons them, they won't dare disobey his orders, Mia said. All right, I'll get rid of those troubles first. Wait for my good news in the Dragon Palace. Zhou said as he prepared to leave. Stop, Mia called out to him. Is it still not enough? Zhou imagined that Mia had seen through his thoughts. You are a human after all. If you walk in the sea, you will definitely be discovered. Here's a dragon pearl. Take it with you. As long as you aren't close to a mythical creature, it will be very difficult for you to be discovered. It also has a certain ability to avoid water. Mia took out a pearl and handed it to Zhou. How can I accept this? Zhou looked at the pearl and felt somewhat embarrassed to receive it. He only wanted to use Mia's intelligence to achieve his goal of killing monsters. He felt somewhat embarrassed seeing Mia return something to him. It's nothing to risk your life for us sisters. Mia clearly believed that Zhou sincerely wanted to help them. Zhou's face blushed slightly. Although he did want to help Mia and Qinling, he mostly wanted to use Mia's intelligence to kill dimensional creatures in order to obtain more resources. Ahem, all right then. I'll accept it. I'll return it to you in the future. Zhou took the dragon pearl and realized that it was a companion egg. You don't have to be surprised. This is something my father left behind after he passed away. Since you want to help us sisters, then let it be your help. If you have the ability, you can hatch it. It should be of some use when fighting the Seven Seas Dragon King, said Mia. Zhou was truly embarrassed this time. Mia seemed to trust him completely. She was even willing to give him such a thing, making him feel somewhat uncomfortable. Originally, he thought that he would help as much as he could and try his best. If he really wasn't a match for them, he could only retreat. However, seeing that Mia seemed to have placed all her hopes on him, he felt a little uncomfortable running away if he really couldn't kill the Seven Seas Dragon King. You trust people so easily. If you really meet a bad guy in the future, you might even count the money for them after being sold. Zhou sighed inwardly and put away the Dragon Pearl companion egg before leaving the Sea God Reef Dimensional Zone. I should let Feng Qiuyan know about this first. Otherwise, I won't be able to kill the Seven Seas Dragon King. Once the Seven Seas Dragon King takes revenge, I wonder if the entire Feng family will be implicated because of Qinling Zhou decided to return to the Feng family first. After telling Feng Qiuyan about this matter, it wouldn't be too late to head to the other 6 dimensional zones in the Seven Dragon Sea. Just as Zhou left Sea God Reef, he happened to bump into someone. The person was walking in the direction of Sea God Reef. When she saw Zhou, she was taken aback. Are you going to the Dragon Palace? Zhou asked her. This person was naturally Qinling. She clearly wanted to go to Sea God Reef. What Dragon Palace? I just want to go to Sea God Reef to hunt dimensional creatures, Qinling said. I've met Mia, Zhou said. Qinling's expression immediately changed as she bit her lip and stared at Zhou. Will you tell Qiuyan about me? Yes, Zhou answered with certainty. Qinling's pupils immediately constricted as she stared intently at Zhou. A terrifying aura rose from her body as her originally black pupils turned golden. Even faint golden scales began to appear on her skin. Her strength was clearly not as simple as the ordinary epic stage. She had half of the Golden Dragon's bloodline. Apart from the epic strength of humans, there was an even more terrifying power hidden in her body. Zhou didn't know if a mixed blood like her could inherit all the Golden Dragon's strength. Even if she couldn't, her body would be much stronger than an ordinary human's. Don't tell Qiuyan about this, Qinling said through gritted teeth as she stared at Zhou. He has the right to know. Zhou looked at Qinling without backing down. Qinling's eyes burned with killing intent as she slowly raised her palm. Her fingernails turned pale golden like sharp daggers. However, in the end, Qinling lowered her hand and her body gradually returned to her original human appearance. Leave. You can tell Qiuyan that I won't return, Qinling said as she turned around and walked towards the Sea God Reef Dimensional Zone. Will you be willing to give up just like that? Why don't you give it a try? Perhaps Feng Qiuyan doesn't mind, Zhou said as he looked at Qinling's back. How can he not mind? I'm not human. I'm a monster. No one can accept a monster like me as a wife. When he was very young, he saw my true body once and was already frightened once. Why should I let him scare me a second time? As Qinling spoke, she rushed into the Sea God reef dimensional zone. Zhou watched Qin Ling's figure disappear into the fog when he heard someone sign not far away. I never expected little Yinyan's fiancé to really not be human. Li Xian walked over and saw the message Zhou had left him. He had originally come to find Zhou, but he never expected to hear their conversation. You're better at talking than me. I'll let you tell Feng Qiuyan about this, Zhou said to Li Xian. I've never liked to say sad things. It's best you tell him yourself. Li Xian shook his head and refused. It might not be a bad thing. As Zhou spoke, he walked in the direction of the Feng family. There were some things that he ultimately had to face. Furthermore, Zhou felt that Feng Qiuyan was already mentally prepared. The two of them returned to the Feng family and found Feng Qiuyan. Coach, you were the one who killed the giant crab at sea, right? Now, all of Sea Return is discussing your deeds. They want to know who you are. Feng Qiuyan said. Let's talk about this in the future. Is there anywhere we can talk? I have something to tell you, Zhou said. Follow me. Feng Qiuyan quickly brought the two of them to a small building. Then, he looked at Zhou and asked, Coach, just say it directly. Qin Ling is indeed not human. She is half the bloodline of a dimensional creature, Zhou said directly. Chapter 9:67. Little Yin, you don't have to be sad. Actually, Li Xian wanted to comfort Feng Qiuyan, but Feng Qiuyan didn't show any expression that required his comfort. What's the other half of her bloodline? Feng Qiuyan asked calmly. Sea God Reef's Golden Dragon King bloodline. Zhou answered Feng Qiuyan. I see. My memories from back then weren't wrong. I saw strange horns on her head and scales on her body. Feng Qiuyan muttered to himself. When I returned, I met Qin Ling. She told me to tell you that she has gone to Sea God Reef and will never return again. Zhou conveyed Qin Ling's words to Feng Qiuyan. That's good too. Feng Qiuyan nodded slightly. Following that, Zhou told Feng Qiuyan about the Seven Seas Dragon King without missing a word. Who the hell is that Seven Seas Dragon King? I don't care if it occupies the monsters in the sea, but it actually wants to target a human beauty. Damn it, I can't tolerate it. Old Zhou, if you want to kill that Seven Seas Dragon King, count me in, Li Xian said. However, Feng Qiuyan didn't say a word. He turned around and left the building, but he didn't leave the Feng family. From the looks of it, little Yin has suffered a huge blow, Li Xian said with a sigh. People have to suffer some blows to grow. It's not a bad thing, Zhou said thoughtfully. I'm just afraid the blow will be too great. Li Xian shook his head slightly. Don't feel wistful here. Aren't you going to kill the Seven Seas Dragon King? What are you waiting for? Go prepare. We are about to set off, Zhou said. Are we really going? Li Xian asked with widened eyes. Didn't you say that you couldn't tolerate it? Zhou said with a smile. I was just going along with the atmosphere back then. That's an old Terragrade monster. Didn't you say so? Only a Terragrade can kill a Terragrade. The two of us aren't at the Terragrade. Wouldn't we be sending ourselves to our deaths if we went? Li Xian said, All right, we're just going to finish off the other ordinary dragon monarchs first. It's not like we're killing the Seven Seas Dragon King. Zhou rolled his eyes at him. The two of them left the Feng family and headed for the seaside again. When they arrived at the seaside, Li Xian looked back and couldn't help but feel slightly disappointed when he didn't see Feng Qiuyan. Let's go. In an empty spot, Zhou summoned Deep Blue Crab Sovereign and got Li Xian to sit with him. A gravity bubble appeared on the Deep Blue Crab Sovereign's body. A hemispherical bubble appeared on its back, protecting the trio from the impact of the seawater. The Deep Blue Crab Sovereign wasn't slow at all. It moved in the water as though it was flying. Furthermore, it wasn't walking horizontally. It was also walking forward normally, a little like a spider. The first dimensional zone Zhou wanted to head to was what humans call the underwater blue hole. From the surface of the sea presented a unique blue color. It seemed very different from the surrounding seawater, making it look like a blue hole. In fact, the seawater there was the same color as the surrounding seawater. The only difference was that there was a bottomless cave at the bottom of the sea. As it was underwater, it was very difficult for humans to fight at the bottom of the sea for long periods of time. Therefore, very few humans entered the underwater blue hole. According to Mia's intelligence, there was a sea snake in the underwater blue hole dimensional zone. The sea snake was extremely venomous, as it had a sliver of dragon bloodline. It also claimed to be the sea dragon king. In the underwater blue hole, there were a large number of venomous sea snakes. The venom of these sea snakes was extremely potent. Once one was injured, the snake venom would enter one's body from the wound. Perhaps not many humans could withstand it. Zhouwen's poison stat was very high. Furthermore, he cultivated a poison-type essence energy skill, so he wasn't afraid of poison. Li Xian had the indestructible golden body and fused with Alpha's carapace, so he likely wouldn't care about ordinary sea snakes. He needed to be careful of the Sea Dragon King. However, Zhouwen had already learned of the Sea Dragon King's weakness from Mia. He had brought Li Xian here because he wanted to use Li Xian's strength to safely finish off the Sea Dragon King. Although Zhouwen could settle it himself, it would be more troublesome. After all, reality wasn't a game. Zhouwen didn't wish for any accidents to happen. After we enter the underwater blue hole, leave the ordinary sea snakes to me. You don't have to worry about them. When the Sea Dragon King comes out, I'll hold it back first. Then, you can release the ice silkworm and use it to lower its temperature. Zhouwen told Li Xian his plan. The Sea Dragon King had almost no natural enemies in the water. The only thing it was afraid of was the cold. If the temperature was too low, its body would stiffen. Zhouwen didn't have any mythical ice elemental pets, so he could only rely on Li Xian's ice silkworm. When he arrived at the entrance of the underwater blue hole, Zhouwen looked around and couldn't help but be disappointed when he didn't find the tiny palm symbol. Quite a number of sea snakes had already appeared near the blue hole. These sea snakes looked rather strange. Their bodies were flat, and they looked about the same as ribbon fish, but they were more than 10 meters long. Furthermore, their bodies were blue in color. They blended in with the environment, making it difficult to discover them. When the sea snakes approached, there was no need for Zhouwen to do anything. The crab sovereign brandished its pincers and cut the sea snakes into two. No sea snakes could approach them. After entering the blue hole, a large number of sea snakes appeared in front of Zhouwen and company. Seeing countless sea snakes squirming in the seawater, the scene left one's hair standing on end. The crab sovereign spewed out a large number of gravity bubbles. The moment the sea snakes encountered the gravity bubbles, they were sucked into the bubbles. Then, as though they had lost gravity, they floated in the bubbles, unable to rush out no matter what. There were many sea snakes, but there were even more gravity bubbles. A large number of sea snakes were trapped by the gravity bubbles and couldn't rush over. Suddenly, a strange sea snake with blue scales and a length of nearly 100 meters with a horn on its head rushed out of the blue hole's depths. Its eyes were filled with anger as it stared coldly at the crab sovereign. How ugly. That Seven Seas Dragon King sure has hardcore tastes. He can even lay his hands on such a harem beauty. Li Xian couldn't help but lampoon when he saw the Sea Dragon King's appearance. He's a dragon. His aesthetic standards are different from ours. Zhouwen wasn't in a hurry to attack when he saw the Sea Dragon King charge over. All he did was order the crab sovereign to continue spewing out gravity bubbles. Thankfully, Qinling isn't this fellow's sister, Li Xian said with a strange expression. The Sea Dragon King was fearless as its body smashed through the gravity bubbles. It opened its terrifying snake mouth and was about to swallow both man and crab. The crab sovereign raised its pincers with all its might and clamped down on its jaw. However, the Sea Dragon King's strength was just too great. It forcefully pressed down, causing the crab sovereign's pincers to gradually lower. It was no match for the Sea Dragon King. Zhouwen summoned Sword Pill and transformed into a stream of light that stabbed at the Sea Dragon King's eyes. At the same time, he gave Li Xian a look. Without any hesitation, Li Xian summoned the two ice silkworms. While the Sea Dragon King was paying attention to Sword Pill, the male and female ice silkworms landed on the Sea Dragon King's body from the left and right like leeches. Chapter 968. The two ice silkworms stuck to the Sea Dragon King's body. The Sea Dragon King immediately shivered as its actions became a little unnatural. It struggled to escape the ice silkworms on its body. However, the crab sovereign clamped its head tightly, making it difficult for the Sea Dragon King to escape. As for its body, it became stiffer and stiffer. What a powerful ice silkworm! Zhou could see with his naked eye that frost was spreading on the Sea Dragon King's scales. The Sea Dragon King's body was also stiffening. Before long, the gigantic Sea Dragon King lost its combat ability. It was as though it had entered hibernation as its body stiffened. Indeed, it's better to have restraining effects when killing monsters. Zhou didn't even need to take action because the Crab Sovereign had finished it off because the Sea Dragon King couldn't fight back. The two ice silkworms were still stuck to the Sea Snake King's body. The blood in the Sea Snake King's body had already frozen. The Crab Sovereign's two giant pincers took quite a while before finally splitting the Sea Snake King's body into two. However, it only discovered a stat crystal. How stingy. It didn't even drop a companion egg, Li Xian said gloomily. How can a companion egg drop so easily? However, Zhou was already used to it. After putting away the stat crystal, he looked at the bottomless blue hole below. After some thought, he said, "Since we're here, let's go down and take a look." The Crab Sovereign led the three of them into the depths of the blue hole. There were many sea snakes around, but with the Crab Sovereign's gravity bubble opening the way, none of them could approach them. This blue hole is so deep. I'm afraid it's about to reach the other side of Earth, right? The Crab Sovereign dived for quite a while, but it still failed to reach the bottom of the blue hole. The blue hole seemed bottomless. At this depth, even the sea snakes didn't appear again. Most sea snakes lived in snake holes on the rock walls, but at this depth, they couldn't even see the snake holes. There seems to be something down there. Li Xian lay by the side of the Crab Sovereign's body and looked down as though he had seen something. Zhou looked over as well, and indeed, he saw a crystalline jade blue below, as though a crystal cave was glowing. However, crystals needed to reflect light. It was naturally impossible for there to be light in such a deep sea. The Crab Sovereign dived deeper and deeper, and the blue light gradually became clearer. Only then did the two realize that it was a thick glacier. Strange, isn't the Sea Dragon King afraid of the cold? Why would it live in such a cold place? Li Xian asked in puzzlement. There must be a reason. Maybe the secret is in the glacier. The ice definitely won't emit light by itself. There might be something inside the ice, Zhou said as he sized up the glacier below. Could it be the snake egg laid by the Sea Dragon King? If it's a snake egg, perhaps it can be domesticated like a goo. Li Xian reached his hand into the water and touched the glacier. He was immediately given a fright. The glacier was extremely cold. Just touching it nearly froze his fingers. The Sea Dragon King is so afraid of the cold. How could he lay his eggs here? With such low temperatures, I don't think the Sea Dragon King dares to approach since he's so afraid of the cold. Right? Zhou ordered Crab Sovereign to dig the ice. The Crab Sovereign had a high resistance to the cold. Under Zhou's orders, it brandished its huge crab pincers and quickly smashed open the glacier. More and more ice cubes were dug up as Zhou and company finally saw what the blue light was. Is this a tooth? The Sea Dragon King's tooth? The thing emitting blue light in the glacier was a blue tooth that was more than a meter long. It looked like it was carved from ice. You could tell it's not just by looking. Zhou got the Crab Sovereign to grab the tooth. After catching it, he immediately felt a chill coming from the tooth. Almost instantly, Zhou's hands froze into ice. Clang! Zhou hurriedly threw the tooth on the Crab Sovereign's back and couldn't help but be alarmed. With his physical strength and essence energy, he was instantly frozen into ice. The cold aura emitted from the tooth was in no way inferior to a mythical creature's strike. This thing, could it be? Zhou thought of a possibility. What is it? Li Xian asked. Typical dimensional creatures, even mythical creatures, will rot and decompose after death. Only a small number of creatures' corpses can be stored for long periods of time. but it's impossible for them to maintain the strength they had when they were alive. Unless this is the corpse of a terror-grade creature, the terror form can preserve the terrifying terror power. It won't rot and decompose so easily, Joan said. In that case, this is a tooth that has transformed into a terror form. What creature does it belong to? It can't be the Seven Seas Dragon King, right? Li Xian said. Zhou looked at the tooth and said, it might not be impossible. The Sea Dragon King is clearly afraid of the cold, but there's such a tooth here. I don't think it's likely that the Sea Dragon King placed it here. Perhaps the Seven Seas Dragon King placed it here to suppress it. Who cares who placed it here? Since it's something good, let's take it away first. What use do you think this thing has? Can it be made into a weapon? Li Xian said. I don't know. I don't know much about the terror grade. I only heard that the terror grade is a true mythical creature. Perhaps the materials on a terror grade creature are really useful. Zhou put on the dragon scale armor and forcefully sent the ice blue tooth into the chaos bead. Although it was only a short period of time, a layer of frost formed on the dragon scale armor on his hands. He got the crab sovereign to dig deeper into the glacier, but he didn't find anything. This was not surprising because other than the tooth, there was no more light in the glacier. Seeing that there was nothing else in the blue hole, Zhou ordered the crab sovereign to take them out of the blue hole. Where are we going next? Li Xian asked. Let's go to Evil Dragon Island. I heard from Mia that there's a dragon monarch that looks like a crocodile there. Its defense and combat strength are extremely astonishing, and it's not afraid of the cold. The ice silkworm won't be of use this time, but I've already thought of a way to kill it. It shouldn't be difficult, Zhou said as he ordered the crab sovereign to head for Evil Dragon Island. No humans dared to approach such an island in the sea. Even the great devils overseas wouldn't casually enter such a place. According to Mia's intelligence, Zhou and company easily found Evil Dragon Island and the Dragon Monarch. It indeed looked like a crocodile, but it wasn't completely like a crocodile. Its body was much longer than a crocodile's, and there were horns on its head. It could barely be considered dragon. Zhou used Mia's intelligence to know that the dragon was afraid of poison. He used the invisibility cloak to sneak over and stabbed it in the eye. When it opened its mouth in pain, he threw the poisonous hair transformed from fatal temptation into its mouth. It didn't take long for the evil dragon to die. After cutting open its body, there was nothing. This fellow is even more petty than the previous one. As Li Xian spoke, his eyes suddenly lit up. Old Zhou, do you think there's a tooth here? Searching dog. Chapter 969. It can't be. Zhou found it impossible. Let's search. Maybe there's something? Li Xian began searching in the dragon's lair. Zhou originally felt that there was no hope, but to his surprise, Li Xian really found something. There's actually something. Look here. There's also an ice layer like the one below the blue hole. Li Xian's voice sounded from the dragon's lair. Zhou went over to take a look and realized that there was a thick layer of ice in a stone cave. There was an icy blue glow inside. It really does seem like it. Zhou was somewhat surprised as he got the crab sovereign to dig the ice layer. At the same time, he said, if there's such a tooth here, this matter won't be that simple. Li Xian nodded. The Sea Dragon King is afraid of the cold. It's possible to place a tooth there to suppress it, but this dragon isn't afraid of the cold at all. There's no reason to place one here. With that said, Li Xian's eyes suddenly lit up. By the way, didn't you say that the 7 dragon monarchs are the 7 Seas Dragon King's harem? Do you think this tooth is a keepsake that the 7 Seas Dragon King gave to his concubine? Seeing a tooth is like seeing a dragon? How would I know? Let's wait until we dig it out. Zhou shook his head helplessly. Soon, the crab sovereign dug out something again, but it wasn't a tooth they had imagined. Instead, it was a bone. It looked like a rib, but it was only a broken section. It didn't look complete. Although it was a bone, its composition was similar to a tooth. It was icy blue like a crystal. It was obvious that it had been taken from the same creature. Don't tell me the 7 Seas Dragon King removed his rib as a token of love? Zhou said as he looked at the rib. From the looks of it, the tooth and rib shouldn't be the seven seas dragon kings. However, apart from the seven seas dragon king, are there any other terror-grade creatures in the seven dragon sea? Why are the things on its body in the layers of the two dragon monarchs? Li Xian stroked his chin and thought. We can go to the other dragon monarchs to take a look. Perhaps there are similar things in their layers. If that's the case, it will be really interesting, Zhou said. Why? Li Xian asked in puzzlement. I heard that deities are born because of human fear. Therefore, as long as human fear exists, deities are immortal existences. They will never die. This is also the origin of the terror grade. Zhou paused for a moment before continuing. I don't know if the legend is true, but from the looks of it, these teeth and bones still contain a terrifying terror transformation power. If we can really find all of its bones, do you think it will suddenly come back to life? Don't scare me. It wasn't easy for us to find these bones and teeth. If we were to be bitten to death by it after it revives, wouldn't that make us look stupid? Li Xian said. If the nests of other dragon monarchs really have other parts, do you think we should dig them up? Zhou asked Li Xian. Dig? Of course we have to dig. These terraformed teeth and bones are definitely valuable. If every dragon monarch has some terraform items, we won't dig them all out at most. I often see it on TV. Those devils who want to revive need to find their bodies. As long as their bodies aren't complete, they can't revive, Li Xian said with a smile. That makes sense. Zhou didn't care. At most, he would place them in the chaos space. Even if the owner of the teeth and bones really revived, they wouldn't be able to cause much trouble in the chaos space. If something major really happened, Zhou could still let the owner of the bones meet Ice Maiden trapped in the chaos bead and let them fight to the death. Therefore, the two of them went to another few dimensional zones. On the way, they avoided some terrifying forbidden areas. Soon, the two of them killed two more dragon monarchs. In the end, they really found something similar where the two dragon monarchs were. In a nest, they found a strand of crystal-like hair. In another nest, they found a broken horn. It was also as cold as ice crystals. It likely came from the same creature as the teeth and bones from before. Why do I feel like we're the villains who are reviving the Demon King? Li Xian said with a strange expression. How can we be villains? Villains have righteous partners who do everything possible to stop them from reviving the Demon King. How can villains be as successful as us? Zhou said with a smile. That's true. Li Xian thought for a moment before asking. Where are we going next? The nearest dimensional zone is the Deathwater Zone. There will be some trouble there. The seawater in the Deathwater Zone is affected by the dimensional zone. Any creature that enters will sink. Even if they can fly, it's useless inside. They can only keep sinking. The biggest obstacle to killing the lobster-like dragon monarch inside is the Deathwater Zone itself, Zhou said. You're good at this. Yeah, and I will wait for you outside, Li Xian said. When they arrived near the Deathwater Zone, Zhou got Crab Sovereign to stay outside to protect Li Xian, and while he put on the invisibility cloak and entered the Deathwater Zone. With the protection of the heaven-opening scripture of the highest elder, the Deathwater Zone couldn't make Zhou drown. At the same time, Zhou used the grand turtle breathing spell to converge his vitality. The lobster-like dragon monarch was really blind. It could only rely on its vital aura to determine the location of creatures. Zhou's grand turtle breathing spell happened to restrain it. Not only was the Deathwater Zone's water not black, but it was even more crystalline, as though it was pure water without any impurities. There were no dimensional creatures in the water. Apart from the dragon monarch, ordinary dimensional creatures didn't have the ability to swim in the Deathwater Zone. They were all at the bottom of the sea. When ordinary people entered the Deathwater Zone, they would quickly sink and be eaten by them. Zhou naturally didn't have any qualms. He quickly swam through the Deathwater Zone. Under the cover of the invisibility cloak and grand turtle breathing spell, he easily passed through the Deathwater Zone and found the Dragon Monarch. When he saw the Dragon Monarch, Zhou couldn't help but be surprised. The Dragon Monarch was much more beautiful than he had imagined. Although it looked like a lobster, the shell on its body was sparkling and translucent, showing a mysterious sapphire color. There were countless streams of light flickering like stars inside. When it was motionless, it was like a sapphire work of art that was focused by starlight. Mia said that not only is its carapace beautiful, but it's also hard. If I want to kill it, I can only attack it from the inside. Zhou approached the huge lobster invisibly. At the same time, he summoned the ancient splitting tadpole and stuffed it into its mouth in the form of a grenade. Boom! As the ancient splitting tadpole constantly exploded, the lobster's body constantly tumbled. Minced meat spewed out of its mouth, but its carapace remained undamaged. Ding! With the death of the lobster, a companion egg dropped. Chapter 970. It's finally a companion egg. Zhou was delighted as he hurriedly picked up the companion egg. Then, he used the mysterious phone to look at its information in the water. Galaxy Shell Dragon, Mythical Life Providence, Unbreakable Life Soul, Star Array Wheel of Destiny, Absolute Defense Strength, 80 Speed, 80 Constitution, 81 Essence Energy, 80 Talent Skill, Deathwater Zone, Dragon Head Raising, Ghost Armor, Companion Form, Armor. There's actually an attribute of 81. Zhou was somewhat surprised. Unless it was an excellent grade mythical companion beast, it was impossible for it to reach 81 points. The Galaxy Shell Dragon actually had an attribute of 81 points. This meant that it had already broken through the limits in a certain aspect. It was considered an excellent grade mythical companion beast. Zhou looked at its stats and abilities and was very curious about absolute defense. Zhou had only seen Tyrant Behemoth's absolute strength in the Absolute series of Wheel of Destiny. The Galaxy Shell Dragon's Wheel of Destiny was very similar to Tyrant Behemoth's. He didn't know if it had the same level of strength. There was nothing else to say. It looked like a defense-type companion beast. Now that Zhou had the dragon scale armor, he didn't have much need for defense-type mythical companion beasts. However, Zhou still hatched it and summoned it in armor form. He wanted to see if such a purely defense-type companion beast armor had higher defense. When the armor appeared on Zhou, he couldn't help but be surprised. A translucent blue armor that shimmered with blurry starlight appeared on Zhou's body, tightly wrapping around his body. It accentuated his slender and muscular figure, making him look like a god surrounded by starlight. Ignoring the defense, just the appearance of this armor has already won against the dragon scale armor. Zhou still remembered the matter of the terror creature's material, so he wore the armor and searched the vicinity. The dimensional creatures at the bottom of the sea rushed over. Zhou wanted to test the armor's strength, so he didn't retaliate and allowed them to attack. The ordinary dimensional creatures couldn't damage the armor at all. From the looks of it, I have to fight a mythical creature to know how strong this armor's defense is. Zhou searched the vicinity for a while and indeed found the ice layer. After digging up the ice layer, he discovered a scale fragment. Just like the materials from before, it was extremely cold. Zhou stored it in the chaos space. After leaving the Deathwater Zone, Li Xian, Enya, were still waiting for him outside. The three of them continued on their way. I found another scale. It's really the first dragon monarch to have the same material. I'm wondering if Mia has such an item as well, Zhou said. Teeth, bones, hair, horns, and scales. The more I look at it, the more it looks like I'm reviving a divine dragon. When I gather the other two ingredients, could it be that I can summon a divine dragon and make a wish? Li Xian quipped. There's still the last dragon monarch left. After we finish this dragon monarch, we'll go to Mia and ask her. She might know what these things are for. After a pause, Zhou continued. However, the final dragon monarch is a little troublesome. She seems to be a hybrid between a clam and a dragon. She's known as a dragon granny, but she's actually a clam lady with some dragon bloodline. However, her abilities are somewhat special. She can suck people into her shell and trap them to death. Furthermore, I heard that the Seven Seas Dragon King often lives at her place. I'm afraid that I'll bump into the Seven Seas Dragon King when I go. It will be troublesome when that happens. Then what should we do? Li Xian also knew that this wasn't a joke. If he really encountered a Terror-grade 7 Seas Dragon King, he would die. Infinite Island, where Dragon Granny lives, is relatively close to the beach. Let's return first. Then, I'll sneak up to Infinite Island and take a look at the situation. Zhou Wen didn't dare be careless. That's the only way. Li Xian nodded as the three of them returned to the beach. Since we have to return, why don't we go to Mia's place first and ask her what these materials are for? Li Xian was curious and couldn't help it. All right. Zhou Wen thought that it wouldn't waste much time, so he took a detour to Sea God Reef. This was the first time Li Xian had seen the shrimp soldiers and crab generals. He was very curious and said in puzzlement, "Strange. Why does Mia's place look like a real dragon monarch's place? The other dragon monarchs are basically a mob. They don't look like what a dragon monarch should have. They don't even have shrimp soldiers and crab generals." I find it a little strange, too. Perhaps Mia's bloodline is really different. She is indeed the creature that looks the most like a dragon among the 7 dragon monarchs, Zhou Wen said. When the two of them arrived at the beach, the shrimp soldiers and crab generals took them into the Dragon Palace. In the Dragon Palace, not only did they see Mia, but they also saw Qin Ling standing beside her. Li Xian secretly observed for a while and didn't see Feng Qiuyan here. He didn't mention it again and only greeted Qin Ling. "Why did you return so quickly? Did you encounter some trouble?" Mia didn't mention Qin Ling as she asked Zhou Wen in puzzlement. "We've already eliminated 5 dragon monarchs. Now, only Dragon Granny hasn't been dealt with. As I was afraid that I would encounter the 7 Seas Dragon King at Dragon Granny's place, I didn't rashly head over," Zhou Wen said. "You actually killed the Galaxy Shell Dragon and the others so quickly?" Mia looked at Zhou Wen in disbelief. "I did. Furthermore, I discovered something strange at the Sea Dragon King's place, so I wanted to ask you if you know what this is." Zhou Wen took out the tooth and placed it on the ground. The floor of the cabin immediately froze. Furthermore, the frost rapidly spread throughout the cabin. The cold air on the tooth was just too strong. "This is the Dragon King's tooth?" Mia sized it up for a while before her expression gradually changed to one of surprise. "You said that this is the tooth of the 7 Seas Dragon King?" Zhou Wen asked. Mia shook her head. "It's not the Dragon Sea Dragon King. I heard that the 7 Dragon Seas originally had a true dragon. After the 7 Seas Dragon King came, he killed the true dragon and seized the position of overlord of the 7 Dragon Seas. However, these are only legends. I originally didn't believe it, but when I saw this tooth, I believed it a little. This is clearly a dragon tooth after the Terror transformation. Otherwise, it would have been impossible for it to be preserved. In the entire 7 Dragon Seas, apart from the 7 Seas Dragon King, only the legendary true dragon can reach the Terror grade. Furthermore, it's rumored that it's an ice elemental true dragon." "I see." Zhou Wen looked at Mia and asked, "We discovered some things at the other dragon monarchs' places. Don't tell me you have something from the true dragon here?" Mia shook her head and said, "Maybe, but I've never seen it. The original dragon palace of Sea God Reef wasn't here. During the battle between my father and the 7 Seas Dragon King, the original dragon palace was destroyed, so I moved here. If you're interested, I can take you to the original dragon palace to take a look." "So go." Chapter 971. The original location of the Dragon Palace was now in ruins. There were broken coral reefs everywhere. According to Mia, the original Dragon Palace was a coral palace, but now there was nothing left. All that was left was this ruin. Mia didn't want to live in this sad place, so she stayed in the sunken ship. Zhou Wen got the Crab Sovereign to dig up the coral reefs to search for ice that might exist. He never expected to really find it. Beneath a coral reef, a blue ice layer appeared. After digging it open, he found a blue crystal that looked like an eyeball. Mia said that it might be the Dragon King's dragon eye. As Mia didn't know what these things were for, Zhou Wen had no choice but to put them away. He had a nagging feeling that these things would be of some use. After leaving Sea God Reef, the more Li Xian thought about it, the more he felt that something was amiss. Old Joe, I think something's amiss. What's amiss? Joan asked. If that Terrorgrade true dragon was really killed by the Seven Seas Dragon King, why would the Terrorgrade items on its body be hidden in the layers of the Seven Dragon Monarchs? Even if the Seven Seas Dragon King doesn't need these materials, there's no need for him to go through so much trouble to hide them in 7 different places, right? Li Xian said. It's indeed a little strange. Perhaps the 7 Dragon Monarchs participated in the battle back then. These terror items might be a reward from the Seven Seas Dragon King. Zhou had also thought of this problem. How can these fellows help in a Terrorgrade battle? Li Xian pondered for a moment before his eyes suddenly lit up. Do you think these 7 Dragon Monarchs were originally subordinates of that Ice Elemental True Dragon? In the end, they betrayed the Ice Elemental True Dragon and submitted to the Seven Seas Dragon King. That's why they obtained these terror items as rewards? It's possible. Zhou felt that it was indeed possible. I still feel that something's amiss. Li Xian frowned and continued thinking. After returning to Sea Return City, Zhou got to temporarily follow Li Xian. He planned on heading to Infinite Island to take a look. If the Seven Seas Dragon King wasn't there, he could take the opportunity to kill Dragon Granny. However, before he went, Zhou sent a message to the Arch. He wanted to ask if the Terrorgrade materials were of any use. Where did you get the terror item? The Arch quickly replied. Zhou roughly explained the matter of the 7 dragons sea before asking the Arch, if all the terror items are found, will this terror creature revive? How can it be that easy to revive? However, those terror items are considered very good materials due to the existence of the power of terror. Since it's useless for you to keep them, why don't you give them to me for experiments? The Arch said, how is it useless? I still plan on using these materials to make weapons. A weapon made from a terror item should be very powerful, right? Zhou hurriedly said, do you think it's scrap metal? You can make weapons out of them by simply burning and beating them. Different terror items have different uses. As you said, those are ice elemental terror items. It's best to use them as refrigerators to store experimental items at low temperatures, the Arch said. Zhou didn't know if what the Arch said was true. In any case, Zhou was definitely unwilling to use those terror items to build refrigerators. After chatting with the Arch for a while, he didn't obtain any useful information. Just as Zhou was about to head to Infinite Island, he suddenly saw a violent gust of wind on the surface of the sea. The waves transformed into a huge tsunami that surged towards the coast. Large numbers of dimensional creatures rushed onto land with the tsunami. Another dimensional creature tide? Zhou was alarmed as he felt that something was amiss. This dimensional creature tide was much more terrifying than the previous crab tide. Many dimensional creatures in the water found it difficult to unleash their combat strength on land. However, this time, the seawater surged and rushed onto land. Many sea creatures that couldn't enter land rushed up as well. Could it be that the Seven Seas Dragon King wants revenge after discovering that the 5 Dragon Monarchs are dead? Zhou was secretly alarmed. Sea Return City was the first to bear the brunt of the attack. The terrifying tsunami even crossed the high walls and surged into Sea Return City. One could see shark-like dimensional creatures charging through the city with the waves. Thankfully, the people who remained in Sea Return City were all wealthy and prosperous families. There weren't many commoners left. Most of them had a certain level of combat strength, so there weren't too many casualties. However, as the tsunami constantly attacked, more and more marine dimensional creatures rushed up. The situation was extremely bad. Thankfully, he hadn't discovered any mythical dimensional creatures. Zhou estimated that he had killed most of the mythical creatures in the 7 Dragon Sea. Even if there were mythical creatures, there weren't many. After putting on the invisibility cloak, Zhou flew towards the sea, hoping to see what power had triggered the tsunami. Typical mythical creatures definitely couldn't create such a tsunami. Zhou guessed that the 7 Seas Dragon King had come himself. Flying far into the sky, Zhou didn't dare get too close to the sea. If the 7 Seas Dragon King really came, he still had room to escape. The tsunami came wave after wave. Soon, Zhou saw the source of the tsunami. He saw huge, strange dragons stirring up waves in the sea. The reason why he called them strange dragons was that although they looked like dragons, they didn't completely resemble dragons. They did have dragon faces, but there were no scales on their bodies. Instead, they had smooth skin that looked extremely tough. Furthermore, Zhou didn't see any dragon claws on them. Instead of calling them dragons, they looked more like snakes, but they didn't look like snakes. There were strange rings on their abdomens. From the looks of it, it's the 7 Seas Dragon King. Zhou counted, and indeed, there were 7 of them. However, their tails were under the sea, making it impossible to tell what they looked like. As Zhou was sizing up the 7 Seas Dragon King, the 7 Seas Dragon King seemed to discover Zhou when in midair. The strange dragons raised their heads and looked at the invisible Zhou. "I've been discovered." Zhou was alarmed as he saw the 7 strange dragons spew out white liquid at him. The liquid was clearly not ordinary water. It was probably the mucus that Mia had mentioned. Once touched, one would be unable to move. Zhou quickly dodged and didn't touch the white liquid. The 7 Seas Dragon King was enraged when he saw this. His body rose out of the water as though he wanted to rush out of the sea to attack Zhou. As the 7 Seas Dragon King's body rose, the seawater flowed to the side. Zhou finally saw the lower part of the 7 Seas Dragon King, and his expression turned odd. Chapter 972. That's not a dragon. It's a huge octopus monster, and the 7 strange dragons are its 7 tentacles. However, it was different from ordinary octopuses. Its tentacles had a dragon head, as well as a mouth, eyes, ears, tongue, and nose. It looked like an octopus or a dragon. It looked extremely strange and evil. The enraged 7 Seas Dragon King revealed most of its body out of the water. Its tentacles spewed out white liquid into the air, hoping to strike Zhou down. Although it was very fast, Zhou wasn't slow either. Furthermore, he was very far from the surface of the sea. The 7 Seas Dragon King couldn't touch his body for a moment. Seeing that it couldn't hit Zhou, the 7 Seas Dragon King suddenly stopped and retracted its 7 tentacles. When Zhou saw the 7 Seas Dragon King's posture, he found it inexplicably odd. Its present appearance was like a sitting Buddha. Its 7 tentacles were bent into a motionless state, as though it was forming a seal. Zhou could even vaguely hear the chanting of scriptures coming from the 7 Seas Dragon King's body. With the strange chanting, the 7 Seas Dragon King's entire body seemed to fall into a fog, preventing anyone from seeing it clearly. No good. Zhou felt something amiss. He wanted to fly away, but it was already too late. A boundless fog rose up in the surroundings. It was as if the entire world was shrouded in fog. Moreover, the chanting of sutras continued to echo in their ears. Illusion? Mental attack? Or some special power? Zhou wasn't sure what power the 7 Seas Dragon King was using, but there was no doubt that it was a Terra-grade power. Zhou used teleportation to teleport out of the fog, but just as he teleported out, he realized that not only was he unable to teleport out of the fog, but he was also sent in front of the 7 Seas Dragon King. The 7 Seas Dragon King swallowed Zhou, who was about to reach its mouth. Zhou felt a terrifying suction force pull his body towards the 7 Seas Dragon King's abdomen. Zhou wanted to teleport again, but he realized that this seemed to be a sealed space. He couldn't teleport out. Plop! Zhou's body fell into the white liquid. In an instant, the dragon scale armor he wore was stuck to the white liquid. He couldn't break free no matter how hard he tried. Soon, his entire body sank into the white liquid. After the 7 Seas Dragon King devoured Zhou, it sank into the sea in satisfaction and quickly vanished. With the 7 Seas Dragon King's disappearance, the tsunami gradually subsided and the number of dimensional creatures that rushed to the shore gradually decreased. Zhou fell into the white liquid and used many methods, but he couldn't escape. Furthermore, he realized that his dragon scale armor was being assimilated by the white liquid. A portion of it had already turned into white liquid. Even a mythical dragon scale armor couldn't withstand the corrosion of the white liquid. Once the white liquid stuck to his flesh and blood, he felt a chill run down his spine. What'd I do? Should I release Ice Maiden? Zhou thought of this idea, but he didn't immediately take action. Ice Maiden was a double-edged sword. There were pros and cons to releasing her. Unless it was absolutely necessary, Zhou didn't wish to take that step. He switched a few more essence energy arts, but it was useless. The dragon scale armor was about to be penetrated. Zhou summoned the Chaos Egg with the intention of giving it a try. However, he didn't have much hope for the Chaos Egg. After all, even the mythical dragon scale armor couldn't withstand the white liquid. As for the Chaos Egg, it was only an epic life soul. However, to Zhou surprise, when the Chaos Egg enveloped Zhou's body, the white liquid didn't corrode it like the dragon scale armor despite still tightly wrapping around it. Zhou couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief when he saw that the Chaos Egg could isolate the white liquid. I never expected the Chaos Egg to be so magical. Although it doesn't have any offensive strength, its defense is pretty good. Zhou hid in the Chaos Egg and used Truth Listener's ability to pay attention to the commotion outside. The Seven Seas Dragon King was advancing in the sea. From the direction it was heading in, it wasn't Infinite Island where Dragon Granny was. It was unknown where he was going. The Chaos Egg's defense is top-notch, but it can't move or have any offensive strength. How can I escape from here? After some thought, Zhou couldn't think of a good solution. Before long, the Seven Seas Dragon King stopped somewhere. Zhou listened attentively and took in the situation outside. He realized that he was beside a huge underwater rift. Without any hesitation, the Seven Seas Dragon King entered the underwater rift and entered a place that resembled an abyss. In the abyss, Truth Listener's ability couldn't extend too far. It could only hear the nearby situation. After a while, the Seven Seas Dragon King arrived in front of a palace. This octopus monster sure knows how to enjoy life. It actually has such a gorgeous palace in such a place, Zhou thought. However, Zhou soon felt that something was amiss. The Seven Seas Dragon King arrived in front of the palace and made a strange action. It looked like he was bowing. Come in. A human's voice came from the palace. Why are there humans in such a place? He shouldn't be human, right? Zhou was alarmed and puzzled. The Seven Seas Dragon King entered the palace. At the same time, Zhou had already heard the situation inside the palace. There was really a human inside. The human was dressed in black armor and sat high up on a throne. He looked like an emperor. After the Seven Seas Dragon King entered the palace, he prostrated himself as though he was expressing his humility to the human. Is it all settled? The high and mighty man asked casually. The Seven Seas Dragon King couldn't speak, so all he could do was nod his head desperately. Even the dragon head at the front of the tentacles nodded. That's good. After spending so much time to set up a plan, I've finally produced a human-dragon hybrid. How can I let her escape my control? The man said indifferently. Who is this person? Zhou was alarmed. Zhou was very certain that this man was definitely human. Furthermore, he had signed a contract with a guardian. But even so, it was unbelievable that he could make an existence like the Seven Seas Dragon King submit to him so humbly. The Seven Seas Dragon King nodded repeatedly as though he agreed with the man's words. The man didn't seem willing to communicate with the Seven Seas Dragon King, who couldn't speak. He waved his hand and got the Seven Seas Dragon King to retreat to the side. He sat there and played with something in his hand. Zhou couldn't help but be taken aback when he saw it. It was a blue dragon pearl that resembled an ice crystal. It emitted a cold aura and was very similar to the terror item Zhou had previously obtained. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.